when history is made.
That's edge, that's caught, that's the game. Queensland finally has beaten New South Wales in a Sheffield Shield final.
ABC Sport is there.
The Lions are the queens of the AFLW. Third time is the charm for Brisbane.
Commercial free.
Catch is taken. Australia has done it again.
ABC Sport.
On radio, online, and on the ABC Listen app.
ABC Sport. AFL.
Get set for the deafening roar. The pent-up emotion is about to flow.
Listen to the crowd roar.
AFL.
Fans are on their feet. Can't believe what they're about to see.
The 2021 AFL Premiership Season.
Grandstand AFL.
We got a game on our hands here. This is really good, fierce stuff.
This is a fantastic game of football. If someone told me there was something wrong with our game, I can't see it today. Actually, it's a spectacular contest.
Dreamers, keep on dreaming.
Oh, the impossible angle!
Sinners, keep on sinning.
Don't go anywhere. The theatre of it all.
Winners, keep on winning.
And he dribbles one through and blows a kiss to the crowd.
Just a new day beginning.
Breaks the paint, has a shot, makes no mistake.
Sends it to home. A sublime strike.
Hard against the boundary. That's a classy finish.
That is sensational. Can he slide it through for the finish? Yes, he can.
Wide angle on the paint of 50. May have just snuffed through an incredible goal. Tries to fend off. Got him. Takes him to ground. Back to Nat Nui. Second don't argue.
Go to your best players. Go to your match winners.
Plays on Mo down from behind. Holding the ball.
Perfect tackle.
It might be a game saver.
Dreamers, keep on dreaming.
Ricochets to Martin. You know the rest. The razzle-dazzle has arrived.
That is spectacular.
It's a new day, new day, new day beginning.
On the boot, kicks the goal. Welcome to the big time.
Oh, the great mark. Outside of the boot, Eddie. Oh, he has kicked it. Makes no mistake. Goes back.
Straightens up towards goal and brings it back superbly. Here's that familiar roar. Double fist salute to the crowd. They might have a new fan favourite. He'll snap. He'll go. A ripper from Gripper. Snaps off a single step and bends it through.
Grandstand AFL.
The 2021 AFL Premiership Season.
Dribbles it through and ends the game.
On ABC Radio and on ABC Sport Digital.
It may be 17th versus 18th in Launceston this afternoon, but today's clash between Hawthorn and North Melbourne shapes as a fascinating one on a number of levels. Two regenerating teams, one eyeing off its first win of the season, the other aiming to give its success-spoilt fans some new hope for the years to come. It's the Hawks and the Roos for Grandstand AFL this afternoon, live from York Park in Launceston, where blue skies abound in northern Tasmania. Chris Rowbottom with you in commentary this afternoon, joined by David Lithgow and Matthew Capuano on special comments. A big welcome to all of our listeners wherever you may be listening from. This afternoon's clash, one of three today. Sydney also taking on Collingwood at the SCG, and the Q clash a little later this afternoon on the Gold Coast between the Suns and the Lions. Later tonight it's Richmond and the GWS from Docklands, and Port Adelaide taking on the Bulldogs from Adelaide Oval. Last night Geelong got it done over an inaccurate St Kilda, 10-8-68 to 5-17-47. But the focus for now is right here in Launceston, where Hawthorn are taking on North Melbourne. The battle of the Tasmanian tenants. Matthew Capuano and David Lithgow, welcome to you.
Hi Chris, how you going? G'day listeners, great to have your company. I'm fascinated by this game because both of the clubs have such different narratives at the moment, don't they, in terms of, we know what North Melbourne have done. They've really peeled it all back, stripped it back, brought in David Noble. They've got some top-end veterans there, and the Zeebles, the Cullingtons, etc., but they're really playing the youth. And we think Hawthorn are doing that, but yet they've got a different type of list. They've got a lot of veterans, still a lot of older players. They're blue-chip players in O'Meara and Mitchell, etc. They're in their mid to late 20s now. So I reckon if Hawthorn lose today, the narrative's going to be really interesting. And I think North Melbourne, by the way, are a big chance. And fascinating. Can't wait for the game.
Matty Capuano, welcome to you for the first time this afternoon. Your thoughts on this impending clash? And I agree with you, by the way, David Lithgow. I think the screws will get turned really tight on Hawthorn if this is the one that they drop here in Launceston this afternoon. North Melbourne get a couple back this afternoon, but also have injury concerns. Hawthorn will go in favourites, but as Flash said, it's a fascinating one. 17th v 18th, two teams on slightly different trajectories, but with a little bit to be excited about at the same time.
Yeah, how are you, lads? Yeah, I'm really excited about this game as well. Obviously, as you've already mentioned, it's 17th v 18th, and once again, Tassie has turned on the weather for us, so there's pristine conditions here in Lonnie, but I think you're absolutely right. I think that the Kangaroos will be approaching this game with no fear and really taking the game on. And maybe Hawthorn, in the whole scheme of things, has probably got more to lose. So it's going to be an interesting battle on the day today.
No late changes for either team. For Hawthorn, the ins from last week, Jager O'Meara makes his return back into the team following a couple of weeks out via injury, and Tim O'Brien makes his way back into the side as well, with Emerson Jekka, Josh Morris and Dan Howe all sitting out this afternoon. In fact, Howe is the medical sub for Hawthorn this afternoon. For North Melbourne, Taylor Garner returns to the team, and Trent Dumont, for the first time this season, will be injected into the North Melbourne midfielder for his 100th game. Will Phillips, the medical sub for North Melbourne this afternoon. Flash, we've had a bit of a look, you and I, at North Melbourne and Hawthorn at various stages this year. We saw the Hawks in Launceston against Adelaide a number of weeks ago, and there were some promising signs there. Jacob Kazitsky, one of them. He kicked 5 goals on that occasion. It was one of Hawthorn's 2 wins for the season. And we also saw North Melbourne take on Melbourne at Bellerive a couple of weeks ago as well, and that first half was really promising too. So, as I mentioned, it's not all doom and gloom for these two teams. 17th v 18th, sure. North Melbourne haven't won a game yet, sure. It looks bad on the outside, but there's just little bits and pieces to get excited about.
Well, let's just peel it back a few weeks and look at the form guide, if you like, about North Melbourne, Matty, because the game against Adelaide, halfway through the third quarter, they were either in front or very close. They were in the game at Geelong for a half, down there at Cat Park. Then they went over to Subiaco, of course, and they stood with Fremantle for a long period of time. Obviously got to the Melbourne game a couple of weeks ago and were just outstanding for 3 quarters and got run over. And I get the feeling, in terms of optimism, if you're a supporter of these clubs just at the moment, you'd have North Melbourne daylight in front of the Hawks, Matty, and you can see it weekly. The young guys they're playing, they're getting an extra 10 minutes here and there. I mean, we talked about Taron Thomas before. I mean, he was wonderful against Melbourne. I mean, if you looked at the stats, Seneca, you wouldn't have thought we didn't have 28 possessions and 15 tackles, etc. But he played on Petrarca, one of the best players in competition. At the very least, broke even with him. And I feel like we're seeing a bit of that every week with the Kangaroos.
Yeah, we are, and as you mentioned, you look at this side and where they are in their development, and it's really their ability to be able to bring that intensity and ability to win the contested football on a more consistent basis. And I'm sure that's what they would be focusing on as a team. And as you say, we're seeing I'm seeing some really promising signs out of the Kangas, specifically out of some of their young players. And you look at someone like Ben McKay, a young, tall, key defender who's really in that back six, taking on pretty much the best defender every week, really because of the absence of someone like a Robbie Tarrant. And you look at his development, that's increasing because of the fact that he's having to take on these jobs. And what we're seeing is that, I think that as a Kangaroo supporter, you would say that you've probably found a really exciting key defender for a long time for the North Melbourne Football Club, and they're the rays of light that I think as supporters that we're all looking for.
And then I guess if we switch it to Hawthorn, they'll start today with Ben McAvoy in the ruck, a two-time premiership. He's been a wonderful leader. He's captain of the club now. There'll be Mitchell, there'll be O'Meara, Wingard, etc. It still has a different feel to it. Well, there's still a really strong reliance on those mid to late 20s guys that really they're very much in their prime.
You are, mate. Yes, they are, and I think that you could say that about both their teams. I think it's so important when you're talking about teams that are in position that these two teams are in, is that you need to be getting a consistently good output from your experienced core of players, and I think that if you can get that, and then you get the rise from that middle to bottom rung of players, that's when you start to see your development going forward as a team. And I think that we're seeing that in some little aspects with the Kangaroos. And look, we were here a couple of weeks ago and watched Hawthorn come from behind and beat Adelaide, and we've seen Adelaide's development this year so far. And you'd walk away from that game, and we would have said some of those things. You get 5 goals out of Kaczynski, and we actually got particularly in the second half, we got an increased performance out of the Hawthorn midfield, where they probably lowered their colours in the first half. And we walk away from that game and think, there are some rays of light from a Hawthorn's perspective as well. But it's really about, today specifically is those parts of the game when the momentum shifts in games, how teams can arrest that change in momentum.
Well, a little earlier, we were able to catch up with senior assistant at North Melbourne and the man in charge of the defensive unit at the club, John Blakey.
Thanks very much. You've turned on a beautiful day too.
It's an absolute perler. What sort of expectations do you enter this match with? You come up against Hawthorn at 17th versus 18th on paper. We were just talking about it in the box, and we think from a neutral perspective it shapes up as a fascinating affair.
Oh, it certainly does. I mean, we've been sort of pleased in a fashion. We're making gains in our game. And probably over the last month you've seen we've been right in games. So we certainly come in every week expecting to win, and today's no different. I mean, obviously we play the Hawks that are in a similar situation, so it's going to be a tough battle.
From a week-to-week basis, what are you what's on the top of the whiteboard in terms of things that you want to get out of games of footy at the moment? You clearly want to win games. Every club does, but is there a number one thing that you want to walk off the ground saying, "Yep, we ticked that box today"?
Yeah, I think so. You just want to put out a competitive brand of football, and that's what we really sort of knuckled down on over the last month. I mean, we've really tidied up our stoppage area. I mean, everyone talks about contested ball. We've been a little bit low there, but it's certainly an area that we're working on. And obviously we want to score more. So we've been working really hard on our offensive ball movement. So, slowly our game plan's coming together. If you look at the figures over the last month, we've slowly gone up in points for and decreased our points against. So things are tracking in the right way. Obviously, we haven't hit the scoreboard with a win, but certainly I would think that's not too far away.
Johnny, Matty Capuano here, mate. I actually just wanted to ask you a little bit about Ben McKay. Obviously, I coached his brother Harry at Carlton. Yeah. He's a bit of a peacock. Can you tell me a little bit about him as his personality, and also, probably more importantly, how you've seen his development this year in taking on some really big roles down back?
Yeah, Benny's been absolutely terrific for us, and he's not a peacock. He plays at the other end of the ground, so he's actually down there putting to sleep, hopefully, the best key forwards in the comp. But he's had some great jobs this year. I mean, he probably didn't really get going in his career till midway through last year. He ended up playing 13 games last year, and what a lot of people don't know about Ben really is that he's only 20 games into an AFL career, and doing great jobs on guys like Hawkins and Tex Walker and these type of guys. So we're really, really pleased with his development. He's a genuine key defender, and taking on the best in the comp and been winning those contests. So we're very pleased with him.
David Lithgow here, John. Taran Thomas, we had a look at him a couple of weeks ago with a big job on Christian Petrarca, and I've watched him closely the last 3 or 4 weeks. After a slow start to the year, he really looks like he's finally in the contest, if you like, against some of the bigger grown men, and he's really stood up the last few weeks, hasn't he, physically in particular?
Yeah, we have a lot of injuries on our list at present, and I guess the advantage of that is you get to experiment with guys in different spots. We see Taran as an inside mid, and he's very, very good at it. He didn't have, obviously last year he was injured and missed most of last year, and had a slow start to his pre-season with the shortened pre-season. So he's probably only just getting to some real game fitness, and it's starting to come through in his games now. So his last 2 or 3 weeks has spent a lot more time in the midfield. We know he's very talented and can go forward and kick us a goal, but he also can set us up through there. So, with the likes of Lazaro, Powell, Taran Thomas, those type of guys that are all getting exposure through the middle, it should hold us in really good stead once we get a few back.
Really interested in Taran Thomas and how somebody like him and with his personality deals with, I suppose, the hype and expectation around him. He was drafted out of Tassie as a high draft pick, and having had a little bit to do with him before he was drafted, a very shy and reserved type, very much let his footy do the talking. How does he cope, I suppose, off the field with the expectation and hype around him, especially given, he will be one of the real key pieces of driving North Melbourne forward in the next, 2, 5, 8 or 9 years?
Yeah, well, Taran takes it all in his stride, really. He's a he's a bit of a peacock around the club as well, so you wouldn't know that. He's quiet amongst a lot of people out and about, but in the club he's got a fair amount of spunk and cheek about him. So I think he'll handle the expectation without too much problem.
And Johnny, your journey, 15 years up at Sydney, and I say with a bit of assumption that probably just moving a little bit further away from your son, I assume you thought might be better for his footy just going forward short to mid-term. For you, the different clubs, what's been the big difference? I guess that's a two-part question. Firstly, with your son and at the Swans, and what are the real differences coming back to a place you're really familiar with here in North Melbourne?
Yeah, obviously, I've spent a lot of time in Sydney, and Nick, my son, popped up there and over the last few years. So it was quite difficult in the sense that, I'm on coaching staff, I'm on match committee, on all those type of things. And it was time for me to probably move on and allow Nick to do his own thing. And I think the timing was right. And obviously landing back down here at North is a club that I treasure. 2 premierships here. And played a lot of football with North, so very different clubs, I guess. Here we've starting to rebuild and reshape this team. Obviously, a new coach in David Noble, and so we're still setting the framework up for our future and for long term for this football club. So. A little bit different to North, where Sydney, where they had the season campaigners. Apart from Jack Zeeble at the moment, probably Goldie are our 2 mainstays here. We're a fairly young and inexperienced side, so that would be where the differences lie.
Just on Jack Zeeble, he's obviously entrenched himself as part of the defensive structure this year, which you oversee. Has that move, I guess, generated the result that you desired that it would? I mean, we've seen players stretching back into the practice matches. Kazitsky kicked 6 down there. We saw DeGoey 6 last week. Josh Bruce has kicked a big bag of 10. Fritsch kicked 5 or 6. I think there's been a few players over the journey just get off the chain. Has the move of Jack Zeeble into that defensive 6 had the result that you intended it to have?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, his leadership, his form's actually been quite solid. His leadership down there's very good. As you mentioned, a few have got away. We're probably still an unsettled defence. We got Aidan Corr to the club to obviously play a big role for us. He hasn't been able to get on the park. Our best and fairest winner, Luke McDonald, hasn't been able to get there. And Robbie Tarrant, hasn't played either. So, you've got three mainstays of your defence not being there, and it does show up some flaws. And then you get guys in there still learning, haven't played a lot of football together. So that's probably why a few goals have come. But no, couldn't be happier with the way that Jack's been going and leading the club.
Mate, Toddy Goldstein, I wouldn't let this interview go past without talking about a ruckman, mate. He's a workhorse. He's obviously, as you said before, he's really experienced part of the side. How's he travelling? How's he getting through the year? I know he just seems to just keep on going. How is he going?
No, he's going very well. I mean, he plays big minutes every week, and he carries the load of the ruck. But that's the type of player he is. I think he plays better the longer that he's on the ground. We're trying to push him forward a little bit as well, because he's capable of kicking the mark and hitting the scoreboard as well. So we've done that at different times. But he certainly started the year in pretty good form and put his old mate Ben Cunnington back underneath, and you start to get a good combination going again.
And John, just lastly, before we let you go, we saw some comments during the week from David Noble, just hinting at perhaps an indication that the club might pursue a priority pick at the end of the season. Are they comments that you agree with, and is that the direction that you'd like to see the club go in, the direction of perhaps putting your hand up for a priority pick at year's end?
Oh, look, if we're in that situation, we need one, certainly. So, I don't have a lot to do with that sort of stuff, so I'll leave that to the powers to be. But certainly, if that's going to help the club, I'd put my hand up for it.
Fantastic. Well, John Blakey, thanks so much for having a chat with us here on Grandstand AFL. Best of luck for this afternoon.
Thanks very much, guys.
Yeah, John Blakey there, a senior assistant at North Melbourne and the defensive coach as well. Matty Capuano, a man you've obviously had a little bit to do with over the journey.
Yes, mate, absolutely. Yeah, played quite a bit of footy with John, and at times at the Kangaroos through a pretty good period. And as was touched on, his coaching experience up in Sydney in a really good program with John Longmire, is invaluable for this young team. In their developmental phase of the football club. But some really key points that come out of that from my point of view. He spoke about the focus on their offensive ball movement, and we look at some of the statistics around their turnover ball, and that's where they get scored on the most in terms of turnover numbers to score. They're ranked 18th. So the focus on them when they actually do win the football, to hold onto the football and be able to transition forward and score off it is obviously a really big, important part of that.
It certainly is. We're also able to catch up with Hawthorn assistant Chris Newman a little earlier as well, and here's a bit of what he had to say. Well, Chris Newman, assistant coach at the Hawthorn Football Club, joins us now on Grandstand AFL with Chris Rowbottom, David Lithgow and Matthew Capuano. Chris Newman, welcome back to Launceston. Gee, Lonnie's turned it on for you this afternoon.
It has. We actually got some photos and videos when we landed of our families showing us the amount of hail that Melbourne copped just before our departure. So unfortunately our families have copped it, but we've come to sunny Lonnie and loving it. It has turned it on. Last time we were here it was very similar, so very happy to be here.
17th versus 18th on the ladder this afternoon. What sort of feeling around the group heading into a fixture like this one today?
Oh, well, it's always excitement because we've got so much growth left in us. So, regardless of the opposition and who we play each week, we've got a system in place that we're very keen to master, and feel like it's a system that's only in its infancy. And no doubt, like North Melbourne, we're working towards a certain style of play that just isn't quite there yet, but we've seen it inconsistently throughout games. So it presents another opportunity for us today to put that system in place and try and play to that system for as long as we can.
Is it a game where you're expecting to find a little bit more out about yourselves as a group, given the opposition that you are playing and the things that you might be able to do this afternoon?
Oh no! Like I say, I think it's regardless of opposition. We've seen patches of the way we ideally would like to play in, in probably all games this year, barring the last two. The last two games we felt like we've been disappointed and probably, wasted an opportunity to put those things into play in games. So, some of the losses that we had early in the year, it felt like we were in games. Even the Melbourne game, we were really disappointed with our second half of our last quarter, but had an opportunity at one point to be in front in that game and, squandered that opportunity. But yeah, consistency's been the thing that we're searching for, and I think North Melbourne are in a similar boat. They've shown some really good passages of play where they challenge opposition, and even 2 weeks ago against Melbourne, really, really competitive and playing a really good brand of football, and had Melbourne on the back foot, and last week against Collingwood had their opportunities too. So, I think both teams are sort of searching for the same thing today. But yeah, we look forward to a really good contest. I think that's sort of where the game's going to be won and lost, and that's in the contested battle. And we're hoping all of our mids, backs, and forwards are looking forward to that contest today.
Chris, David Lithgow speaking. I just want to know, Chris, about your thoughts as you've been at Hawthorn a long time now, and about some of the younger players. Depending where you read and what you hear, there's always mixed reports about where Hawthorn are. And I think as a club, you've been very transparent this year. I certainly, having seen live, I've seen some things in some players, Kaczynski and CJ Giath, and the development of Hanrahan's, etc. And I do feel like there is a little bit more youthful exuberance there for Hawks fans to really get excited about going forward. Oh,
absolutely, yeah. We've really loved the signs that some of these young kids have been able to produce this year, and especially the guys, as you mentioned, like Kaczynski, who last year played a different position. He was the total opposite to what he's playing now. He was playing full-back and trying his hardest in that position, and thought there was an opportunity for him to compete forward, and he's really relished that opportunity forward and provided a really strong target for us. And sometimes he gets results in terms of scoreboard impact, but sometimes he doesn't. But the thing that we love about him is he's been really consistent, and Giath is the other one that's in my department coaching the backs, and I've loved his progression. I've had a little bit to do with him sort of coaching Box Hill for a couple of years, and he played a lot of football there, and just seeing his growth and development as a footballer and as a person, they're the little wins that you can get throughout the year. And Moore's the other one, Hanrahan, and we still feel like we've got some young talent to come back in. We haven't seen Denver Granger Barris yet. Hopefully, within a few weeks, he'll be able to put his foot forward and play a game after his injury. And Will Day's the other one that another back half player that hopefully sometime soon we'll be able to get back out there and showcase his talents. But I think you're right. We've seen some little pots of gold from some of our younger players, and that's what it's about, really capturing those moments and trying to harness them. But probably the biggest balance that we need to find is letting these young players play to their strengths, and then coupling that with our system. So that's what we're searching for with those guys.
And I guess on the back of that, Chris, moving forward in season 2021 with your Lineside, Box Hill, etc., I can only assume that there is going to be an emphasis on playing more and more kids, exposing them at this level, and seeing what you've got on that list.
Absolutely, yeah. But that will be a focus, and I think the really fine balance is how much youth do you play versus coupling that with some experience. I think sometimes you can go the other way and play a lot of youth, and sometimes it can have the opposite effect of things don't quite work for you, and you can cop some real beltings. But I think we've got to find that balance and reward some of these younger kids that are playing some good football and deserve an opportunity. So that's certainly our focus. We've got to we have to play these kids, gives them some AFL exposure, and let them learn playing the game, but hopefully surround that with a little bit of experience to help them guide them through.
Chris, just one more for me before I throw to Matty Capuano. I'm interested just in terms of your journey individually. You're so well respected at the Richmond Footy Club, captain the club, etc. Have you managed to really sort of step aside a little bit from your role and really admire what your old club's done over the last 5 years?
Obviously there's I still, I played with a few of those guys, or a majority of those guys that played in that first flag, and I remember when they played in that premiership, I was really, really happy for the individuals to get that success, but also happy for the supporter base who they've been through a bit of a struggle for a while, but they get some reward there. So it's good that they're playing some good football at the moment, and potentially give themselves another opportunity this year. The way they play is quite an exciting sort of brand of footy, and I enjoyed sort of the way that they've progressed. It'd be nice if we could have some of that now. I think they've had enough now, and we'd like to pinch a bit of that success back off them.
Chris, Matty Capuano here, mate. Ben McAvoy, I think probably to most of the public outside of the four walls of your footy club, most people would have said it was maybe a bit of surprise that he took on the captaincy this year. I'm sure internally that's completely not the case, obviously. Can you tell me a little bit about his leadership strengths and his capacity, and how you think he's developing in that leadership role as the captain?
Yeah, I've loved his progression so far. He played back last year, so I had the privilege to work a fair bit with him, and he's got a real strength of his to galvanise a group, and his care and compassion for those around is second to none. So I think that's one of the most pleasing aspects to see from your leader, to be able to relate to all ages too, which can be a bit of a struggle, but I think he's got the ability to connect with our youngest player on the list and our oldest. So no doubt he'd be racking his brain each week to see how he can get better as a leader, and I think that's one thing that he does do. He tries to be the best leader he can possibly be. So whether that's tapping into others for advice, or to tap into the leadership group that he has, he's working very, very hard to be able to keep the group connected and advance his leadership skills. So I love the way he's been able to lead us this year, and know that we haven't had results, but he's been one guy that's tried to find positives and some growth areas each week. And as you can see, each week he puts his body on the line, and often a little bit like Selwood comes off with the blood rule quite a lot. So I think he actually straps his head before he goes out to play now, just as a bit of a safeguard. But yeah, he's one player that the boys love playing with, that's for sure.
Chris, just on the Hawks midfield group, we've seen the last couple of weeks with Jager O'Meara stepping out through injury. James Warple's been able to get in there and get back to some of his best footy. How do you, I suppose, reckon with that and have your cake and eat it too? You want James Warple playing the absolute best footy you can, but you also need that combination of O'Meara, Warple, Mitchell, I suppose. You've tried Wingard. I think you even threw Scrimshaw in there for a couple of centre bounce hits last week. How do you figure it out and get it to click?
I think that those guys need to form a strong connection in there. They're going to get exposure together quite a bit, obviously, and we will have opportunities to be able to, trial things like Scrimshaw in the middle of the ground, who we think could potentially take his game to into the midfield. But it's always a bit of a fine balance. We probably need to give them exposure in the middle of the ground, but also find a secondary position. And quite often you'll see some of those guys resting forward. So they've sort of got to try and get exposure in both positions, I guess. And the more they can play together, the more cohesion and connection they'll have in the middle of the ground, and hopefully that results in a really competitive midfield for us.
Well, Chris, thanks for being so generous with your time. We'll leave it there as you make your way down to the rooms in preparation for the bounce this afternoon. Best of luck this afternoon, and once again, thanks for the chat with Grandstand AFL.
Yeah, no worries at all, guys. Thanks for having me.
Chris Newman there, Hawthorn assistant coach, ahead of their big clash this afternoon against North Melbourne at York Park in Launceston. Both teams on the ground as we speak, going through their warm-ups at either end. Nice conditions here in Launceston too. A slight breeze maybe favouring at the southern end early, but blue skies and the ground looking an absolute picture on a pretty crisp Tasmanian day. No late changes for either team. Dan Howe is the medical sub for Hawthorn. Will Phillips is the medical sub for North Melbourne. We're a couple of minutes away from the coin toss. But lads, I'll throw it over to you just as we build up towards the bounce. Some interesting sort of comments from Chris Newman there around the development of the Hawks. There just seems to be an inherent confidence within the four walls at Hawthorn that there's nothing much to see here. We're going to be okay.
I think that's the thing, Matty, isn't it? And they're very strong in the world. We spoke to Brendan Bolton a few weeks ago, and I get the feeling that internally they do seem to think that they're absolutely on the wavelength. I mean, I guess the question's going to be asked as the season goes on, like we asked with Chris, will you be playing more young kids? And then when you get to the end of the year, with their list profile, they've got those 27-year-olds, maybe even stars in Mitchell O'Meara. Do you move one on? Do you try and get another first-round pick in? You're not going to win a flag for the next couple of years. It's a bit of the unknown, isn't it?
It is, mate. And look, they're a really well-coached outfit, Hawthorn, and I'm sure that they will back in their development as a team. And as you say, you know, you want these young players to be exposed to playing AFL football, because that's where you'll see improvement when you expose them at this level, and you get games into them, and you'll see them develop over a period of time. And as you say, it is an interesting question in terms of, you know, do they look at one of their established midfielders, for example, to move on at the end of the year to try and give themselves, you know, some elite picks or get some elite talent into the footy club. They're in a really, really interesting phase at the moment, Hawks.
So enough talk about the future. Let's cast our mind forward to today and the match at hand this afternoon. Hawthorn and North Melbourne. Who wins and why? Where do you think this game can be broken open for either team? As we mentioned, we saw Kazitsky kick 5, and we've seen a North Melbourne leaky defence in previous weeks. Does a Hawthorn forward get off the chain this afternoon, perhaps for the first time this season?
Well, look, I'm going to go for the Kangas, and I think by a couple of goals. It's really just based off what I've been seeing over the last, predominantly 4 weeks, where you can just see that they're starting to continue to stay in games for longer. And I'm really excited to see today, you know, whether they can bring that brand of football to their game, and for how long they can do it. And I think they can against the Hawks and get the points.
North Melbourne have lost 17 in a row dating back to round 9 last year. Hawthorn not too much better. They've lost 14 of their past 17 back to round 9 2020. Talk about wins and losses and how, you know, whatever happens, the win-loss column might not be that important. It's a development year, but that starts to weigh on you, numbers like that, don't they?
Well, 17 is a big number, isn't it, Matty? So I'm not sure why, but I'm with you. We've seen a lot of North Melbourne and the Hawks the last 5 or 6 weeks, and I think the northern patches have just looked a little bit better. And the question will be with them is how long can they hold on for in terms of that staying in the game energy, which they did against Melbourne for 3 quarters, and to be expected. I don't see a Melbourne out there today, and certainly in Hawthorn. They've got some quality mids, etc., but what an opportunity to break that streak. It's a long one, isn't it?
A couple of milestones today as well. Trent Dumont returns to North Melbourne for his first match of the year, and he also plays his 100th game, does Trent Dumont for the Roos. And for the Hawks, Alistair Clarkson, equal 15th all-time in games coached with his 377th one this afternoon. So a man who knows the game extraordinarily well, as we know. He knows this ground very well as well. Hawthorn 50 and 14 at York Park. So whether or not the North Melbourne Kangaroos upset that record this afternoon remains to be seen. But we are just moments away from the bounce as the players break from their huddles and make their way to their positions. Hawthorn has won the toss. They'll kick to the southern end of the ground, or the right-hand side of your radio dial. Any matchups that you're seeing early, Matthew Capuano, as the players make their way to their positions?
Not at this stage. You see them, both teams going to their positions now. Nothing's really standing out at the moment.
Back in the middle there.
Yeah, Thomas is starting inside, which does happen.
So there's the siren. It's Grandstand AFL from Launceston, Hawthorn and North Melbourne, 17 v 18. David Lithgow with the first bounce.
Two of the great veterans in the ruck field. Well, they'll get a second opportunity because the bounce wasn't great. Goldstein and McAvoy, of course, who we're talking about. Both of them having very solid years again. Goldstein won it down with the left hand. Picked up here by Cunnington. Gave it to Taran Thomas. Kicked forward to a one-on-one. Went over the top of their head to Zerha, who presented with a good lead. Will have a shot on goal 52 metres out on a 45-degree angle.
Ben Cunnington right at the centre of that clearance just then, and that's what the Kangs will be looking for today.
Zerha, he's left forward pocket. He'll kick from just outside 50. He'll start at left, and it often comes back left to right, but today it almost went a little bit right to left in the air and through for the first score of the day. North Melbourne with one behind.
So Hartley to bring it in for the Hawks, who's just found a spot in this Hawthorn defence. Umpire says play on. He makes his way out from the square and goes short to Hardwick in the right back pocket. Slow little build-up here for Hawthorn, who sees something he likes in Shields just over the top. He's marking at right half back in front of Lockie Young. So Shields for the Hawks. He'll go up the line in the McAvoy direction. He'll have Goldstein to contend with. Kaczynski came over the back. It fell to Wingard. He was tackled by Hall. It come up to Thomas. They work it by hand now. Cunnington gets it back now to Simpkin, who released the player in Mackay. By hand now to Turner, who was pushed as he kicked, and there'll be a free kick down the field to North Melbourne. In fact, it'll come back to Turner. He was just pushed as he was kicked by Luke Bruce, and it'll be Thomas who will end up taking the kick.
So the young Tasmanian, so familiar here, won a premiership with North Launceston, of course. Kick to half forward, and Goldstein takes the mark. Gave it off to Kane Turner. Kick's not good, and a good defensive spoil by Hartigan. Ended up here with Wingard, who looked to be taken high, and he was. Cunnington over the shoulder. Taran Thomas won a couple of flags here with North Launceston, and what an exciting young player he's going to be, and he's shown some really good signs of late.
Wingard short to Shields, right half back the Hawks, pops one over the top, wanted more running on Cousins it was, he couldn't quite bring it under his spell. Hall gathers the loose footy, left half back for North Melbourne. Kick inside was ambitious. It'll pay off though. Come off the hand of Cunnington. Fell to Taylor, who goes across the ground now where Goldstein awaits. So middle of York Park. He'll go long via his left boot. Inside 50 in the Larky direction, but getting in front was Jack, taking a really strong defensive mark.
Just want to see that ball just come to ground from a Kangaroos perspective and give the smalls on the deck a chance to get a go at it.
So Jess, switch your play to Frost. Back to true fullback where Hardwick takes the mark, and he goes to right half back to the former Port Power speedster and Impey. Having a good year, back healthy and fit, which has been his biggest issue the last couple. He's kicked now along the line. Kaczynski will fly, but Mackay stood his ground and got the fist down low. Shields and Kane Turner battling. Turner won the footy. Came out in front of Curtis Taylor. He can't gather it. Hartley did, and the former Bomber went to kick. It was well smothered, but spilled out to Kaczynski. Got a little chip away to Wingard. Wasn't good, but good enough to get it up to Shields on the half volley. In turn, that goes to Warple. Warple now on the outside of the boot. Kicks to about 40 out from goal. Moore took it cleanly. Gave it to Bruce. His right forward pocket, a tough kick. Not for him. He's done that so many times. And Luke Bruce gets the first of the day. Hawthorn, 1 straight goal, 6 lead North Melbourne, 1 behind, 4 minutes gone first quarter.
Well, 1 entry for 1 goal, mate. Really positive from the Hawks. And I've just noticed a matchup. Kane Turner looks like he's going pretty closely with Luke Bruce. He actually got away from him then, but he's following him everywhere he goes.
With Bruce, that's a tough kick from most people, but goodness me, he made that look easy, Chris Rowbottom.
He certainly did. He knows this ground perhaps better than anybody who's played here, I think.
Ever.
He's an absolute master, as we know, around goal, and it was just a piece of class early in this one. So Hawthorn draw first blood. They're 1 straight 6. North Melbourne 1 behind. It's the Hawks by 5 points early in the first term here in Launceston. Back in the middle we go. Ordinary sort of bounce from the umpire. Nobody won the tap. Mitchell was wrapped up by Cunnington. It spills free to Davies Uniacke, who releases Aaron Hall off half-back. He takes a bounce, runs his full measure and kicks towards right half forward now for North Melbourne. A one-on-one deep between Frost and Zerha. It went over the back. Frost gathered the footy. He was taken over the line. We'll have a boundary throw in 30 metres around from the right behind post. North Melbourne attacking end.
So boundary line throw in. McAvoy won it down. Zerhard was there to shark it though, but was immediately dispossessed by Frost. Ball in dispute. Hartley went down low. He couldn't gather it cleanly. Taylor Garner's at the bottom of the pack trying to release it. Eventually does, and Phillips grabbed it for Hawks. Stewart back pocket. Came to Liam Shields. Kick around the corner in front of Mitch Lewis. He couldn't gather it. They've turned it over again here to the Roos. Kane Turner. 55 from goal. He chips. He kicks a cross goal, and he hasn't narrowed the angle, but Goldstein with a mark. And he'll kick it from about 55 metres, Goldstein. Right to the line, but McAvoy was on his own, happy to spoil it. And it goes over the boundary line, about 12 metres around from the right-hand goal post.
Kanga's dominating possession at the moment. They'd be wanting to try and make sure they make the most of this dominant possession.
So boundary throw in, North Melbourne attacking end. McAvoy got to the front. It went straight down to Cunnington, who just busted through a tackle. His handball didn't find a teammate. Frost was taken perhaps high. Umpire says nothing doing. We'll have a baller in the Hawthorn defensive 50, 35 metres out from the North Melbourne goal. Up it goes. Larky did the ruck work. He might have been just shoved out of it. No, it'll go the other way. So McAvoy receives the free kick for a block.
So McAvoy, who chipped to centre-half back, and Hartley takes the mark. They gave it off here to Cousins, but the kick wasn't good at all. But fortunately on the bounce, it landed with Kaczynski. He gave up the handball, though, and it wasn't good and turned over. Mackay grabbed it here for the Kangas. Inboard with a handball to Cunnington, who spreads it wide to Zeeble. He takes the mark. Just defensive side of the wing he'll kick from. It's a thumping kick, so you'd imagine he'll potentially kick it long inside 50 somewhere, which he does to Thomas, who's in front but couldn't take the mark at the full. Hardwick did well, gave it to Hardigan, but his ball was smothered over the boundary line about 60 metres around from the goal. 5 points the margin, 7 minutes gone first quarter.
Slow and steady start here from both teams. Nothing too much to write home about at this stage. Hawthorn lead by 5, 1 straight 6 to 1 behind. And it comes. McAvoy got front position in front of Goldstein. It was picked up by Cousins for the Hawks. Towards the middle of the ground they go. Out came Lewis. Couldn't take the mark. He's got Walker to contend with. He gathered the footy and Lewis wrapped him up. At ground level was Lazaro. Couldn't win a handball. It's in Hawthorn hands now. Cousins' kick was smothered. Out to Lewis, whose kick was also smothered. Giath attacked the footy hard, but Cunnington wrapped him up. And we'll have a stoppage on centre wing broadcast side.
So interesting start. Just feeling each other out, these two teams at the moment. Off the ruck tap, Cunnington gave it to Simpkin, but he was taken down. A tremendous tackle from Cousins. Wasn't given hold of the ball. A fraction unlucky perhaps. It spilled out here to Menadue, who gave it off to Aaron Hall. In turn to Jamont, game number 100. Kick forward to Larky. Wasn't well directed. The ball felt to the ground here for Hardwick, who spread it wide to Hanrahan, who takes the mark defensive side of centre wing on the outer side.
So Hanrahan, he'll go short over the top. He won't find Mitch Lewis, who had to get down on his knees to take the mark. It spilled off his chest, and now the footy's in North Melbourne hands. Cunnington, short one over the top to Marnie, who's at right half forward. He marks in front of Jath. Too far out to score is Marnie, as he just assesses things forward of the ball. Eventually goes inside 50 to a 2-on-2. Getting back in the hole was Frost. Roving was Thomas. Just shoveled it up to Davies Uniacke, but there's been a whistle. It might have just found its way over the line. We'll have a boundary throw in 15 metres around from the right-hand goalpost. North Melbourne attacking in. Hawthorn 1 straight 6. North Melbourne 1 behind.
So McAvoy in front again. One down with the left hand, but ended up here with Marnie, about 35 from goal still. Morrison went down low and was taken illegally, however, and will take the relieving free kick for the Hawks. Harry Morrison chips it wide to Cousins, back in the team about 3 weeks ago and has been playing some good football. Gave it to CJG. I think he's off and running, as he likes to do. Down centre wing, drives it long forward. The target was O'Meara, ended up with Kaczynski, who gave off a handball to Wingard, left forward pocket, hard up against the boundary line. Kicks a beauty. And the Hawks have got 2 goals straight, 12. They lead North Melbourne 1 behind. 10 minutes gone. Matty Capuano for Grandstand AFL.
Well, that was a belter. That pocket, hard to kick goals from there. But what I really like to see is KJ coming through that wing position with lots of running, getting that ball inside 50 and putting the Kangaroos' defence under a heap of pressure. And, you know, I'm not too sure what the inside 50 numbers are right at this moment, but as I said before, the Kangas...
Feels like it's 10-2.
Yeah, it does. You know, they've had all the possession, and Hawthorn have gone in a couple of times and scored 2 goals.
So Hawthorn 2 straight via a couple of their class players in Bruce and Wingard. 2 straight 12. The Hawks, North Melbourne 1 behind, perhaps against the flow of play, as suggested, back in the middle. McAvoy missed it. Davies Uniacke gathered it. Campbell, his handball only as far as Wingard, whose handball was only as far as Davies Uniacke. Out to Powell now for North Melbourne. Inside 50 they go again. Larkey brought it down with the one hand. Phillips was there for the crumb, couldn't gather cleanly. Larkey butted up nicely. He got the handball over the top, looking for Marnie. He met some trouble. Out to Simpkin now. Little right foot ball is nice. Davies Uniacke at left half forward. His ball is an absolute shocker. It grubs along the ground and Jath's there to mop up. He sold Impey into a little bit of trouble, but he was good enough to work it out. Out to McAvoy now. Handball out in the Phillips direction, who might have been held. Out to Jath. Now it's Hardigan, who gives to Warple, who gives to Mitchell. All by hand, the Hawks, and the kick finally comes, and it hits Hanrahan just back of a wing broadcast side for the Hawks.
Made to work on that occasion, the Hawks, but they've done okay with some good foot skills. Kick along the wing. O'Brien will be the target and takes it on the second mark. Just in front of Sean Atley. Plays on with the handball now to Moore. He'll kick it forward. O'Meara's gone forward. It's over the top of his head. Bouncing balls picked up here by Lazaro. Got his handball away. Well, almost did, because Hardigan was there to spoil him with a good tackle. Aaron Hall, the Tasmanian, down low. Can't gather it cleanly. Spills out the back door here to the Hawks. There's a chance here with a bending ball from Morrison. In fact, it might have been more, and just to the narrow side. So the Hawks attacking again. 2 goals, 1-13. They lead North Melbourne 1 behind. 13 minutes gone, first quarter.
Hall out from fullback, short to Menadue. Left back pocket, he goes over the top to Atley, who had the running Hall. He gives to him by hand, and now inboard they go. So in the hands of Mackay, who gave it off to Thomas, who takes a bounce through the middle of York Park. He's got not much ahead of him. A man streaming back towards goal is Goldstein. He hit him on the chest, and he lambled in for the easiest of goals. Coast-to-coast footy, North Melbourne. Goldstein kicks the Roos first. Hawthorn 2-1-13. North Melbourne 1-1-7. 13 and a half gone. First term Grandstand AFL.
Chris, as you say, end-to-end footy, and it started in the hands of Aaron Hall, who we've seen over the last couple of weeks off half-back accumulating a lot of football, which is really positive for the Kangaroos, and ends up in the hands of Thomas, and great transition end-to-end football.
He's a beautiful kick, Taron Thomas. He really is. I've watched him pretty closely since he was 16, and a lot of it at this ground here at York Park, and he's beautifully skilled, and that was a lovely kick. Goldstein getting on the end of it. Some big running capacity of the big man on full display on that occasion. Back in the middle, 6 points the margin, just halfway through the first quarter. Fascinating game. O'Brien's gone in the middle for the Hawks and won it down with the fly. He got a real sit down to Warple to Shields. Comes back here now to Warple, who runs through the corridor. Kick forward, Mitch Lewis gets in front, couldn't take the mark. Crumb's here to be won, and is won by Cousins. Right forward pocket. He tried to bend one back from about 35 metres out, can't do so. Another behind to the Hawks, 2-2-14. They lead by 7 points.
Gee, the Hawks, when the ball goes inside 50 and it goes to ground, they look really dangerous at ground level.
Zeeble in from full-back to Davies Uniacke, who kicks to Goldstein at right half-back. Still inside defensive 50, though, North Melbourne. He's got a man presenting short. It was somewhat dicey to Lazaro. He was hassled by Morrison. He'll be paid the mark at right half-back. So only progressed the footy about 45 metres have North Melbourne here from the Cousins behind. He'll go long around the outer side, but it's a nest of Hawks, and they could have raffled it. Shields with the winning ticket.
Shields, who drives along forward. Mitch Lewis and Amir is there in front. Can't take the mark. Ball at ground level to be won. 30 metres from goal. Menadue went down low. Was taken, I thought, a little bit high. The umpire said no, he was happy to throw it up. 35 metres out from the Hawks goal. Hawks fans enjoying what they're seeing here at the moment. Goldstein won it down to Davies Uniacke, but was taken high by O'Brien, who was reaching up over the back, trying to get over the big man, Todd Goldstein, the veteran. What a tremendous campaigner he's been. Game number 260 today. He kicks out to half forward. Young's presented well. He comes out and takes the good mark.
So Young, short lateral ball back inside D50 to Zeeble, who takes the mark in front of Liam Shields. Gee, he's seen some footy this year, has Jack Zeeble. Supercoach owners very happy with his work. Entrenched into this back six now. Now in the hands of Menadue. So from left half back, Menadue goes beyond a wing in the Young direction. Giath was met solidly by Thomas, and Giath stays down. Just takes a second or two to emerge. In fact, he's just in the hands of the doctor.
It was a solid hit.
It was a solid hit. And he's going to make his way from the ground, so hopefully nothing too serious there.
I tell you as well, Thomas felt that as well a little bit. It was a good contest.
Boundary throw-in. Goldstein palmed it down. Coming through with Shields, who just tried to fist it forward. Got it to Warple. He was tackled immediately by Turner.
Giath went off for a spell, Matty, and I can tell you Taron Thomas is on hands and knees over on the half-back flank.
So a ball up, just attacking side of the wing for the Hawks. An arm wrestle here as we get back underway. Kick out of the congestion from Simpkin, only as far as Mitchell, who handballs defensively to Hardwick. Gets onto his right boot and kicks Hawthorn towards right half forward. Kazitsky had work to do. It came to ground level, out to Wingard, who got it to Shields, now to Kazitsky. Handballing across ground now into the arms of Morrison, who sends one long towards goal, all the way to the line. And a diving Mackay just saves the day. It spills over for a minor score. So Hawthorn moved to 2-3-15. North Melbourne 1-1-7. 18 minutes gone first term.
Zeeble from plays on from full back and gives it to Walker, a floating ball along the half forward, and it's not good at all. Impey takes the mark. Almost shinned that one. It was not great. Impey, he plays on now. He'll kick forward. Kaczynski will fly. One by, couldn't take it in a second, but gets a free kick. He was clearly the one who wanted that footy more so, and he's rewarded with a free kick.
Really liked that attack at the footy from Kazitsky, and that's why he got the free kick, because he launched really hard
didn't he?
At the ball in the air, and really hard to defend, and had to give a free kick away to try and stop him.
Kick 5 goals here 3 weeks ago and what was his best display as a senior footballer. I think he's been very impressive. He's a big man. We heard from Chris Newman earlier, who said he was more of a defender, and here he is trying to play his key position his first year of senior footy. He's doing a good job. He kicked from 45 metres out. Wasn't a good kick straight away off the insteps, not even to make the distance. Does get over the boundary line, still ball in play, left forward pocket. Eventually gets over there. Now, there was a little hint that perhaps a bit of deliberate was on offer. The umpire wasn't buying it.
Right in front of the Hawthorn cheer squad, of course. So in it comes, deep into attacking 50 for the Hawks. It's roved off the pack by Simpkin, who sends a high ball outside defensive 50. Scrimshaw flew. He'll butter up his own work and he'll gather. He gets around one and pierces a ball inside to Wingard, who marks in the left forward pocket. So Scrimshaw just was unable to take the mark, but was able to just trap the footy, gather, get round an opponent and hit the target. So Wingard will kick for his second. Distance won't be an issue. He'll kick from 30 metres out, but a tight angle, not too dissimilar from where he kicked his first from, albeit on the run. So Wingard in for his second, left foot kick. He didn't mind it off the boot. He loved it off the boot. Wingard has his second. Hawthorn have their third. And the Hawks skip out to 3-3-21. North Melbourne 1-1-7. 20 minutes gone. First term for Grandstand AFL.
Momentum shifts in footy. We saw in the first part of that quarter all the momentum with the Kangas, multiple inside 50s for no result. And then Hawthorn on the break go and kick 2 quick goals. And then now for the second part of this quarter so far, you see the Hawks now just dominating the games. The Kangas struggling to get it out of their back half.
Midway through the second quarter up in Sydney and Collingwood, 4-3-27. They travel well, don't they? Leading the Swans comfortably 1-3-9. 14 points the margin here at York Park, and the real quality in Wingard and Bruce, the goal kickers so far. Wingard now with a couple. Back in the middle, McAvoy won it down, but no one's there to win it clearly except Morrison off the wing. He just grabbed it, burst around with a real pirouette, gave it to Shields, kicked it forward to Wingard, off to Gazinski, bending ball, and a goal. Started with Morrison, who attacked the footy off the wing, and again they get to the goal so quickly. It was terrific footy to watch, and the Hawks have got 4-3-27, leading North Melbourne 1-1-7, 22 minutes gone first quarter.
What a really positive start from the Hawks, and you know, a lot of this is coming from their midfield, particularly in that particular instance. Could have been a free kick before that, but yeah, really good start from the Hawks today.
Certainly has been, and all of a sudden they bounce out to a 20-point lead. Bruce with one, Wingard with a couple, and now Kazitsky adds to his York Park tally. And the Hawks, as you mentioned, Matty Capuano, every time they go inside 50, something seems to happen. Back in the middle we go. What sort of response now for North Melbourne? McAvoy won it down as only as far as Power. Got out the handball to Cunnington, who'll send North Melbourne forward. Inside 50 they go. Big fist came from Hartley for the Hawks. It fell to Cousins. He was tackled by two Roos. Back of the square will have a ball up. 22 and a half minutes gone. Hawthorn lead 4-3-27. North Melbourne 1-1-7.
McAvoy and Campbell on this occasion, and Campbell's given away a free kick for not giving McAvoy enough space. He farms it wide and goes to Morrison, in turn now to Tom Mitchell. He'll kick along to half forward. O'Brien went up, couldn't take it on the second bite, ended up here in the hands of Atley. Gave it to Mackay though, who's taken a terrific tackle, just good enough to get a handball off to Atley, but he was immediately dispossessed. The umpire's letting things go on here, and Shields grabbed the footy and he was taken down and he got the free kick. I'm not sure about that one, Matty Capuano. How'd you see it?
Could have gone either way, Flash.
Short ball from Lazaro is immediately chopped off. Impey was the one. Simpkin was the target. He missed him. Lazaro had to butter up at ground level and attempt to wrap things up. And now Another holding the ball call against the Hawks again. This time it's Hanrahan who's pinged, and Simpkin will emerge with the footy at right half back. So they'll get out of jail after the misguided Lazaro kick. Simpkin kicks towards the outer wing. Another whistle. This time it'll go the way of North Melbourne for a hold. Campbell to come up with the footy. It's against McAvoy. So Campbell just awaits some movement further up the ground, and that's where he goes. He went in the Larky direction. He got hands to it, but just spilled it at the last moment. The handball from Moore to Cousins wasn't great. It come out to O'Meara, who fed it defensively to Hardwick, who goes wider again to Phillips, and he marks at right half back, right against the boundary line for the Hawks.
Phillips will drive it long. Goldstein will probably be the first there, but it drops in front of him, and O'Brien couldn't take the mark. Fell to Cunnington, who gave off the handball to Simpkin, was taken down. A wonderful tackle. The umpire said play on. Out the back now, it spills to Phillips on his right side. Kicks, and it's not a good kick. And dropping in the hole there is the former Lion and Cat, Josh Walker, who takes the mark. Hasn't got a lot to kick to, so he'll now kick it back to just outside 50 where the Roos are attacking. Ball off hand. Phillips went down low, couldn't gather it cleanly. McAvoy put his head down and barreled through. I loved how Chris Newman talked before the game about McAvoy, Matty Capuano. He straps his head on ready to go. And that's why he attacks it with full velocity.
Just forward of a wing, attacking side for North Melbourne. Up it goes. Campbell does the ruck work. Mitchell's there. Coming through was Cousins, who fed out the handball to Shields. He goes forward in the Wingard direction. Getting in front was Zeeble. It fell to Bruce, who gave it to Wingard. He might eye off a third here. From 55, he kicks all the way to the square, but getting into a really good position was Kazitsky to take the mark on his chest in front of Walker. And Kazitsky will kick for his second and to improve the margin to 26 points for the Hawks.
Some kick, Matty.
Exquisite kick, Flash, and again, you know, the value of winning that ground ball from the Hawks there. They're absolutely dominating at ground level at the moment and giving their forwards really good looks.
So Kazitsky, slight angle, 20 metres out for his second of the afternoon. He pumps the fist as soon as it leaves the boot. It's another one for the Hawks. 5-3-33 Hawthorn lead North Melbourne 1-1-7, 26 and a half gone first term for Grandstand AFL. It's getting a little bit dicey for the Roos early.
I really like the way the Hawks are setting up defensively, and you see when the Kangas are getting the ball back at half back, they really haven't got anywhere to go with their ball movement. They're just dumping the ball down the line. You know, what we've seen from them so far this year is they want to try and go through the corridor and get the ball going to give them opportunities inside 50. We haven't seen that, and Hawks are winning the ball back at half back and looking really dangerous going inside 50.
And they've got a 26-point margin deep into the first quarter. And they've looked really dangerous forward today, the Hawks. 2 wins for the year, and the Kangaroos without one. Goldstein won it down to Cunnington, who got it off to Davies Uniacke. Through the corridor, he'll now drive it long forward, but again, a kick that's not well directed. The former Demon, Frost, takes the mark. He chips a little wider to the back pocket where Hardwick is applying his trade, who now switches play to the other back pocket at Impey. Impey forward to Morrison. He couldn't take the mark, was good enough on the half volley to gather. Gave it to O'Meara. Scrimshaw now from the handball. He releases a kick to Hartley, who'll kick along the wing, and coming up taking the mark is Moore.
So Moore, right in front of the interchange benches, takes the mark, kicks inboard to Hartigan, who marks right on the AFL logo on centre wing. To right half forward he goes. Mitch Lewis just got a little bit of space in front of his opponent in Walker. And he marks it right half forward, 75 metres out from goal. He'll just pop a short one inside 50, looking for Bruce. Might have the arm chopped. He has to butter up. Just knocked it back to Phillips, who gave it to Moore. Runs around his opponent, screws the ball back inside. Wingard was lurking. He couldn't gather the footy. Campbell did and gave it to Hall. Releasing kick. Still inside defensive 50. But the mark is taken by Curtis Taylor in the right back pocket.
So Taylor. Kick along the line. Larkey be the target. Getting in front of him, Scrimshaw couldn't take the mark. Frost butted up from ground level. It was intercepted, though, to Atley, but came back out to Cousins. The Hawks turn it over again. Mitchell to Hardwick. Hardwick now drives it long forward. Ball off hand. Hanrahan was there to gather. Was dispossessed by Cunnington. He got it and fed out a handball to Curtis Taylor. That's a dangerous kick, but he gets away with it. And Trent Jamont takes the mark right on the siren. Goodness me, that was dangerous late. But what a quarter to the Hawks. Hawthorn 5 goals 3, 33. They lead North Melbourne 1-1-7. The goal scorers 2 to Wingard, 2 to Kaczynski, and 1 to Bruce. So at quarter time, 26 points the margin. Hawks in control.
ABC Sport on social is your sports conversation on the go. Video, player insight and analysis. This is the content you never knew you needed. Get ABC Sport wherever you scroll.
New from ABC Books, Lapsed by Monica Dux. She was a devout Catholic at age 10, an outspoken atheist by 20, and ultimately settled into a state she calls lapsed. With dry wit and razor-sharp observations, Monica Dux attempts to exorcise her demons and her angels and her saints, but losing your religion is harder than it looks. Lapsed by Monica Dux. Book and audiobook available in bookshops and online.
The 2021 AFL Premiership season on ABC Radio and on ABC Sport Digital.
Warpelnay on the outside of the boot, kicks to about 40 out from goal. Moore took it cleanly, gave it to Bruce. His right forward pocket, a tough kick. Not for him. He's done that so many times. And Luke Bruce gets the first of the day. Gave it to CJ Giath. He's off and running, as he likes to do. Down centre wing, drives it long forward. The target was O'Meara, ended up with Kaczynski, who gave off a handball to Wingard, left forward pocket, hard up against the boundary line. Kicks a beauty.
In the hands of Mackay, who gave it off to Thomas, who takes a bounce through the middle of York Park. He's got not much ahead of him. A man streaming back towards goal is Goldstein. He hit him on the chest and he lambled in for the easiest of goals. Coast to coast footy, North Melbourne. Goldstein kicks the ruse first. Grimshaw flew, he'll butter up his own work and he'll gather. He gets around one and pierces a ball inside to Wingard, who marks in the left forward pocket. So Wingard in for his second left foot kick. He didn't mind it off the boot. He loved it off the boot. Wingard has his second. Hawthorn have their third. And the Hawks skip out.
Won it down, but no one's there to win it clearly except Morrison off the wing. He just grabbed it, burst around with a real pirouette, gave it to Shields, kicked it forward to Wingard, off to Kaczynski, bending ball, and a goal.
He goes forward in the Wingard direction, getting in front was Zeeble. It fell to Bruce, who gave it to Wingard. He might eye off a third here. From 55, he kicks all the way to the square, but getting into a really good position was Kaczynski. So Kaczynski, slight angle, 20 metres out. For his second of the afternoon, he pumps the fist as soon as it leaves the boot. It's another one for the Hawks.
The 2021 AFL Premiership season on ABC Radio and on ABC Sport Digital.
Grandstand AFL live from York Park in Launceston, where Hawthorn lead North Melbourne after one quarter, 5-3-33 the Hawks. North Melbourne 1-1-7. Chris Rowbottom with you in commentary, David Lithgow and Matthew Capuano on special comments. Matty, how did you see that first term, that leaky North Melbourne defence, once again a problem?
Yeah, look, if we look at it from a Hawthorn perspective, as I mentioned in the call, that was, North Melbourne dominated that first part of the quarter with their possession, with going inside 50 and could not score, and the Hawthorn back six held up. And then the momentum shift in the back half of that quarter, where the Hawthorn really dominated possession, and they were really effective when they went inside 50, particularly when the ball hit the ground, with the likes of Wingard, who's kicked 2 goals, 2 pretty good goals. But and from a North Melbourne perspective, David Noble would be talking to those boys and asking them, have they turned up to play today? Because really, there is a big difference between the two teams in terms of their intensity and their attitude towards the game.
26 points the margin here in Launceston. Another game being played as we speak at the SCG deep into the first half. Sydney 4-3-27, all locked up with Collingwood 4-3-27 also. David Lithgow has some goal kickers and some leading disposal winners in this game. Flash?
So Wingard with a couple, Kaczynski with 2, following up his 5-goal haul here from 3 weeks ago. He's looked in good touch early, and Bruce, who kicked that lovely first goal of the game, and Todd Goldstein, the veteran, kicking the only one for the Roos. Ben Cunnington, the major stat winner on the ground with 11. Jai Simpkins got 8. And we'll go right down to Goldstein and Hall with 6 apiece for the Roos. And for the Hawks, Hardwick and Cousins with 9. Wingard with 8. Shields with 8. Kaczynski with 7. Morrison, O'Meara, Moore and Mitchell all with 6 possessions. So I think you summed it up nicely there in that second part. Matty, they really seemed to get their hands on the football. The first part of the quarter, North Melbourne certainly had plenty of it, but I liked your observation about what they're doing, their game style here, and they're effectively just using the wings and going the 50-50 arc kicks, if you like, and that's not what we've seen from the Kangas of recent times.
No, you're right, and I'm sure that David Noble at the break would have been saying to them in terms of when they do win the ball back, let's take the game on. We spoke about it pre-game, about what we'd see from the Kangas today is them taking the game on with nothing to lose, and I think he'd be encouraging to do that this quarter.
105 disposals to the Hawks to 85. They're going at 89%, the Hawks. That's an amazing stat.
Second term action for Grandstand AFL. Back in the middle we go. McAvoy won it down straight to O'Meara, who gave it to Warple, who fended off an opponent. His handball was intended for Hardwick. He got it to Wingard, to Scrimshaw, who just dances around an apartment, to O'Meara, back to Wingard, to Scrimshaw, who kept running. Inside 50 now go the Hawks. Lewis got in front, out-pointed his opponent, read the footy better and plucked it. Hawthorn will kick for goal. 30 metres out, slight angle within a minute of this second term starting.
Chad Wingard playing like a man possessed at the moment, and I tell you what we just saw in the middle of the ground, which doesn't normally happen. Ben Cunnington copped the biggest don't argue of all time then. Usually he's the one who's standing him out.
So Lewis leans back on the kick and extends the margin to 32 points. Mitch Lewis kicks his first of the afternoon, and Hawthorn moved to 6-3-39. North Melbourne 1-1-7, 1 minute gone, second term for Grandstand AFL.
Not the start that the Kangas would have wanted, and again the Hawks winning the ball through the midfield, and when they go inside 50 have been really effective.
Yes, they have, and the Kangas are just off the boil. I've watched a lot of them the last month, as you have, Matty, and Chris as well, and they haven't turned up today. The old adage, turning up to play, we haven't seen that from the Kangas just as yet. All credit to the Hawks, however. 32 points the margin now. Kicked the first here of the second quarter. Back with Goldstein and McAvoy. Goldstein won it down to Davies-Uniacke, who gave it off to Simpkin. Drives it forward. Bouncing ball about 30 out from goal. Just going off the ground there was Hardwick. Couldn't go that cleanly. Eventually he did get a soccer back into the middle of the ground. Davies-Uniacke was first the footy, however. Gave it to Goldstein. Kicked forward where Campbell's there, but went over the top of his head. Hartley gathers for the Hawks. Gave off a handball to Impey. They get out of danger and it's outside 50, and they do better than that because Impey's got a free kick down here. It'll be down the ground, and Tom Mitchell at left half back to take the free kick.
Just knocked off the footy as he disposed of it on the left boot. It'll be a down the ground field free kick, only 15 metres, mind you, and Tom Mitchell has it at left half back for the Hawks. High ball towards centre wing. Mackay got underneath it, couldn't take the mark because it's at ground level, just lost his hand to it. Ended up with Goldstein, whose handball missed Kane Turner, and over it goes for a boundary throw in, just attacking side of the near wing for the Hawks.
Hawks on top. McAvoy again in front. Goldstein, though, over the top, won it down with his right hand. Cunnington couldn't gather it cleanly. Spilled out here to O'Meara. Yet his kick smothered from Davies Uniacke, who gets a wobbly kick up forward, bouncing ball. Zurhaar charged out, gathered it cleanly, gave off the handball, but Davies Uniacke couldn't take it cleanly on the follow-through. Still at the top of 50, Hardwick went through, was taken very high. The umpire, perhaps blinded by the sun on the outer side, didn't see it. He says, give it to me, and he'll throw it up right on the top of 50. The end, the Hawks are attacking.
Up it goes. Campbell palmed it down. Wingard at ground level. Been prolific this afternoon. Davies Uniacke couldn't work out a handball. Simpkin could to Marnie, who goes back to Cunningham. One way, then the other out to Lazaro. High ball inside 50. Campbell got underneath. Didn't travel 15. No mark paid. He's wrapped up by two Hawks. Cries of ball. Umpire says no. Contested footy inside the Roos attacking 50. And we'll have another stoppage 45 metres out from the Roos goal.
So Campbell and McAvoy won it down, but only to Cunnington, who gave it off a handball to Simpkin, whose kick's not good. It goes to the top of the square with a bouncing ball, gathered by Hartley, gave off a handball to Scrimshaw, ill-directed. Zurhaar gathered, went down low and was taken high. Scrimshaw not happy with the decision, but he attacked the footy, Zurhaar, and you have a shot on goal.
Better signs from the Kangas just in the last couple of minutes. They've just been able to hold the ball inside 50, and obviously we get a free kick out of that. But just the pressure around the ball and their contest just a bit better than what it's been.
Well, he's going to kick from about 25 metres out. He's on a tight enough angle to make you nervous. Zurhaar, though, makes no mistake. Kicks the first goal of the second quarter for the Roos, and wasn't it much needed? Hawthorn 6 goals, 3:39. Lead North Melbourne 2-1-13. We've travelled 5 minutes in the second quarter. Hope you're enjoying the coverage wherever you are here on Grandstand AFL. David Lithgow, Chris Rowbottom and Matthew Capuano with you.
Yeah, to say they needed that's an understatement, but hopefully that just springs a little bit of confidence out of the Kangas, and we can just start to see that contest come back into their game.
So the Roos pull one back, 6-3-39. The Hawks, North Melbourne 2-1-13, a goal apiece early in this second term. On a beautiful Launceston day, the sun is shining, the sky is blue. It is crisp outside, but a classic Tasmanian afternoon here in Launceston. Back in the middle we go now. Goldstein won it down straight to Simpkin, who fed it out to Thomas. He's got some time and space in the middle of the ground. He'll kick towards half forward. The fly was really early, and there'll be an unrealistic attempt paid against Curtis Taylor. Free kick will go to Scrimshaw at left half back for the Hawks. Scrimshaw, who's also enjoying a pretty good season in defence for the Hawks. His kick's a good one to Shields, who takes the mark in front of Thomas, just back of a wing for the Hawks. So Liam Shields now just takes on the man on the mark and just sends a high wobbler towards half forward. McAvoy got front position, off hands Cunnington. Rove gave to Simpkin, who gave the handball to Davies Uniacke. Coming through was Cunnington, who fed it off to Dumont on the outside. Right football to right half forward. This came from Hartigan, and he broke up the marking attempt from Zurhaar. Out of bounds it goes 60 metres around from North Melbourne's goal, broadcast side.
Better signs from the Roos, starting to get themselves into the game here a bit. Got a chance here just outside 50. Goldstein won it down beautifully. Simpkin gathered. His kick wasn't good in front of Zurhaar. I reckon, Matty, Simpkin's only little issue is I'm not sure about his kicking.
Tell you what, that was first class ruck work from Toddy Goldstein there, and really they should have made a little bit more of it.
Boundary line throwing deep into attack here. Larkey won it down, couldn't get it to a teammate, however, ended up with Mitchell, who just barreled it out of the air. Steaming up was O'Brien. He couldn't take the mark. Dumont was there at the full, gave it off to the attacking Aaron Hall. Can he spot up a target? He can. He's got Larkey. And he takes the mark 45 metres out on the slightest of angles.
Again, as we've mentioned a little bit earlier in the quarter, is that when Hawthorn now trying to exit out, the Kangaroos have just had a nice little period of possession where they've been able to hold the ball inside 50.
So Larkey, 45 metres out, kicks it just to the left-hand side for a behind. Disappointing finish. That margin now back to 25 points. We've travelled 8 minutes second quarter.
Hardwick out from full back, hit Scrimshaw at right half back, who released Impey, and all of a sudden the Hawks are on centre wing. Impey took a bounce and just burned off his opponent, released Shields by hand. To right half forward he goes, inside 50 goes Shields to a 2-on-1. Big fist came from Mackay. Contested footy still inside Hawthorn 50. A scrappy ball forward from Mitchell, only as far as Mackay, who takes the defensive mark, and North Melbourne will get out of trouble.
Walker is the target. He takes the kick and he gets it off here to Aaron Hall, whose chipping ball wasn't good. Marnie was the intended target, ended up, however, with Hardwick. In turn now to Scrimshaw, raking left foot as we know. Kick forward's a good one to O'Brien. Couldn't take the mark cleanly. Hanrahan's there at the fall. Got off the little one across the ground. Ended up here with Phillips with a left foot curling ball that just snuck in for one behind. Just forcing the ball forward with knock-ons and taps. And the Hawks nearly pinched another one. 26 points the margin. 9 minutes gone.
Zeeble runs the spine. Couldn't hit his target in Cunnington, but he'll get a free kick because O'Meara came in late and just chopped across the arms a little bit vigorously. Cunnington's kick is not good. It's straight to Cousins, who's just back of a win for the Hawks. His kick was equally ordinary, but the Hawks were able to work it out. It ended up with Hardwick, who goes across the ground to McAvoy, who marks it right half back. McAvoy, short ball, spots up Shields, just back of a wing still for the Hawks. He's got a man running around the back who he's thought about utilising in Hardwick, thought against it. Went a little wider to Moore. Eventually Hardwick will get on the end of the Moore ball. So just setting things up here, the Hawks. Right half back, Blake Hardwick. 6-4-40 Hawthorn, North Melbourne 2-2-14. Out towards the outer wing, just straddling the boundary line. And O'Meara took the mark, but it was paid out of bounds on the full. He couldn't quite keep it in. Free kick North Melbourne.
So Cunnington, the recipient, he's kicked to Garner back in the side today. He chips up further to Connor Menadue, the former Tiger. Gave it off to Zeeble. Zeeble now running again. Zurhaar's just snuck into the pocket on his own. Looked like it was going to fall in his hands, but getting back with some good defensive work there was Hartley, and he sees it over the boundary line. But it is the attacking end the Kangaroos are going towards. Left forward pocket. So a chance again to attack the scoreboard here. Larkey couldn't win it down, went over the top of his head, and Scrimshaw just banged it on the boot. Wingard went up early, couldn't take the mark. Walker tried to go off the ground, still in the middle of the ground now. Hanrahan releasing a handball. He's got Shields back to Hanrahan, in turn to Warple, and the Hawks move it around the wing.
Dylan Moore, centre wing out of side. Takes the mark. So more right foot ball. He'll kick towards half forward. It's not his finest effort. Wingard was at the back, had to chop it down. Lewis rode the footy. Wingard kept going. He takes it on the bounce, and a small chipping ball over the top was an absolute beauty to Shields, who marks 30 metres out from goal on a tight-ish angle, but he'll have a shot, you would think. Just assessing his options is Liam Shields. He'll be just inside the boundary. The distance will not trouble him. But a chance here for the Hawks to kick their second of the term and to just extend this margin. So Liam Shields, in he comes, right foot ball. He kicks the goal. So Liam Shields kicks his first of the afternoon. Hawthorn's second of the term. And the Hawks skip out to 7-4-46. North Melbourne 2-2-14, 12 and a half gone. Second term for Grandstand AFL, Matthew Capuano.
Despite a little period of dominance from the Kangas there, the Hawks go inside 50 and score. And again, one player that figured in that passage of play, which he has in a lot of the scores today so far, is Chad Wingard. He's had a great start to the game.
You're not wrong, Matt. He's had a whale of a game. Nearly took a hanger, albeit a fraction early. He's still got that match-winning look about him, doesn't he? no doubt about it. When you look at O'Meara and Mitchell and Wingard, they're all that mid to late 20s group right at their peak. I guess it's a wonder of how far with this group they can take them forward. They're playing well today. 32 points now the margin. Campbell with his opportunity in the middle against O'Brien. Campbell won it down, but straight to O'Meara, who gave it off to Mitchell, who was tackled by Campbell. Dispossessed. Ball still be won in the corridor. Taran Thomas did well. Released a handball to Aaron Hall. The Tasmanians combining. Bursting down the wing. Has one bounce. Did he go too far? That's an incredible kick. He chipped it back to Marnie, who went further. I think Garner's taken the mark about 30 metres out directly in front. Aaron Hall was streaming towards forward 50 there, and he kicked it on the instep and it went sideways, hit the target Marnie, who followed up with a good kick. Garner's got the shot on goal. Unbelievable kick, as you said, Flash. He just was able to just check that at full speed running and hit the target.
First game of the year for Garner. He's one of those players, he's had many opportunities over the year, a lot of injuries, but that'll give him a world full of confidence. His first goal of the day and for the year in his first game, of course. And that margin now back to 26 points. Hawthorn 7-4-46 lead North Melbourne 3-2-20, 14 minutes gone, second quarter.
From a Kangaroos perspective, you want to try and get the ball in Aaron Hall's hands, because when he does, he really takes the game on and looks really dangerous when he does it. And as a great example from that last passage of play.
So we saw Jath go off the ground earlier in the game after that big collision with Taran Thomas, and he's just returned to the field. Hence the applause from the Hawthorn faithful. So great to see him all well and good. Hawthorn 7-4-46, North Melbourne 3-2-20 here in Launceston. 26 points the margin. 2 goals apiece in this second term. Melbourne tightened things up a touch, but Hawthorn still with the advantage. Back in the middle, O'Brien won it down straight to Mitchell, who gave it to Cousins, who gave it to Impey, had to kick quick, had the pressure from Zerha. His kick just went to green grass. Dumont couldn't get a handle on the footy, neither could Hanrahan. Here is Giath. He just takes on his man as he does so often. Inboard now to Mitchell, had to work. He had a man on the outside in Morrison, who gave it back to Hartley. His kick was smothered by Marnie. And the Roos force a boundary throw in at right half back.
So the Kangaroos, again, they've got it down the end they're kicking towards, which is the city end here in Launceston. No real wind advantage to talk about. Campbell in front, won it down to Simpkin. In town to Curtis Taylor. Kicks towards Zerha, can't take the mark in front of Giat. He's taken over the boundary line. I wonder whether it was a little illegal, the umpire said no. So boundary line throw-in 52 metres around from the Kangas goal. They trail by 26. 16 minutes gone in the quarter. Campbell, left hand, won it down to Thomas beautifully. Gave it off here to Powell. The kick's not good forward, however, and Giath is there to take the relieving mark.
Out wide he comes to Phillips, who's still inside defensive 50. At left half back, inboard a short one to Mitchell. He's got one over the top, which he'll use in Scrimshaw. He's going to get things moving immediately via his left boot to Shields, who's on centre wing. Inboard goes Liam Shields to Hartley, who plays on immediately by hand. Cousins in some space at the top of the 50. Short ball to Hanrahan, couldn't take the mark. Cousins got his own crumb, gathered the footy, fired on goal, and misses to the left-hand side. So minor score, Hawthorn 7-5-47. The Hawks move to North Melbourne 3-2-20.
Kangas just picked apart by foot off half back there, and Hawthorn went into their inside 50 just a little bit too easily.
Aaron Hall with the kick-out duties. That's a tremendous kick. He waited and got Jamont at half back, who gave off the handball to Atley, who burst down the wing. Following up his work there was Powell, and he chips forward again to Garner, who's taken the mark on 50. And he's got Larkey moving forward for him. He chips in that direction, and he takes the mark. So he'll have a shot on goal 40 metres out, albeit on a tight angle left forward pocket.
End-to-end footy, and that's really positive from a Kangas point of view, but I'm sure that Alistair Clarkson from Hawthorn point of view, when the ball transitions from end to end like that, he'd be really, really disappointed with their defensive effort.
Every time it's happened today, it seems to be on the back of an Aaron Hall doing something. And again, he set it up with that wonderful kick. Larkey's kick for goal is terrific. So the Kangas have got their fourth, and suddenly the margin just 21 points. Hawthorn 7-5-47, lead North Melbourne 4-26. 18 minutes gone, second quarter, Grandstand AFL.
Look, positive signs from North. We were really critical of them in the first quarter about their effort, and you've just seen they've just turned that up with their effort in this second quarter so far. And look, David Noble would be pretty pleased with what he's seen.
7-5-47, the Hawks, North Melbourne 4-26, and they've kicked 3 goals to 2 in this second term after being down by 26 points at quarter time. So something of a game unfolding here in Launceston. 17th versus 18th on the AFL ladder. Plenty more Hawthorn faithful in the stadium this afternoon than North Melbourne. The battle of the Tasmanian tenants. Up it goes in the middle of York Park. Goldstein won it down. Bruce attacked the footy, but it fell into the arms of Morrison, who got a left foot ball high towards half forward. Out come the big men. Mitch Lewis couldn't take the mark. Taylor took it on the bounce for North Melbourne. He was tackled by Hardwick. Little ball inside now from Shields. Kosicki just worked underneath the footy, getting back Menadue for North Melbourne, who ran into a couple of Hawks. His handball over the top was good enough to Kane Turner, who got it to Zeeble, whose short ball was good to Walker at right half back.
Finding a bit of control now, the Kangaroos. Walker. He's just going to kick to the contest, which will be Larkey and the former Crow in Hardigan, who was strong again the contest. He's a monster of a man. Saw it over the boundary line. It's centre wing, where Ben McAvoy's about to come back onto the ground. He won't be there just in time for this ruck duty. It'll be Goldstein and Lewis who's come up. The Crummer ended up here with Davies Uniacke. He shook off Warple. Kick forward is a good one. And Curtis Taylor takes the mark, and he's going to ask for 50. And he's going to get it right in front of the Hawthorn members here. Matty, Capuano, what did you see?
Just a tiny little nudge, just mid-stride, just after he marked that ball that sent him to the ground. And I guess these days that's enough, isn't it?
Yep, pretty much. It was one of those ones, I think, which was right on the edge, but he just opened up the door, and what he's done here is given an opportunity for Taylor from now 17 metres out, his slight angle, and this will bring the margin back to 15 points. He's kicked the goal. So the Kangas, 2 goals in 2 minutes, and that margin, as mentioned, 15 points. Hawthorn 7-5-47, lead North Melbourne 5-2-32, 21 minutes gone in the second quarter.
Yeah, all of a sudden now you can just see the Kangas just starting to gain a little bit of confidence, and you just see Todd Goldstein ran all the way into their forward 50 to give Curtis Taylor a little pat on the back with that, which is a great sign that you see that they're just still approaching this game. They've got themselves back into it, and this is the contest we were looking for when we were talking about it in the pre-game flash.
4 of the last 5 goals now belong to North Melbourne, who, as you say, have reeled it in to 15 points, and the Hawks all of a sudden looking a little shaky in Launceston. So 7-5-47 plays 5-2-32. Middle of the ground. Goldstein won it down again. O'Meara went in hard. Goldstein just holds his face as he might have copped one on the way through. Kick towards half forward. He's taken by Bruce. So Luke Bruce marks on his chest, just a little far out to score. Inside 50 now go the Hawks, and the fist was good over the back from Walker. He'll force a boundary throw-in 25 metres around from Hawthorn's goal, and they need a steadier here, the Hawks.
Geez, it brings back some memories just copping those kind of hits in the ruck, Chris.
No thanks. July throw-in, McAvoy. Won it down. Zeebel's there together, but he can't do so. He goes in to tackle Shields, the 2 veterans combining there at the contest. All still deep in the forward line for the Hawks. It's now 40 metres around from their goal. It's rolled over for a boundary line throw-in. Hawks all of a sudden needing some scoring momentum of their own. Goldstein won it down again beautifully to Simpkin, who just bangs on the boot in the Larky territory. Hardigan's there to wear him like a glove, but Jareth with pace was there to gather on the half volley. Gave it to Frost. Back to Hardigan. Kick now to the top of 50. The big Giants combining there. Goldstein getting the better of it. Ended up with Taran Thomas. He kicks it forward back to the same spot. And Hardigan, the former Crow, with another mark. Kick to kick, end-to-end footy.
Right half back, Hardigan for the Hawks. Short ball to Jath is okay. He's hard up against the boundary line, out of side, just back of a wing. Spent some time off the ground a little earlier following a heavy hit with Taran Thomas, but back on now is Jath. In front flew McAvoy, who took a really strong mark for the Hawks in front of his opposing number in Goldstein. So right half forward now go the Hawks. And again, the defensive fist, this time from Zeeble, it'll spill out of bounds. 65 metres around from Hawthorn's goal. They lead this one 7-5-47 to 5-2-32. 24 minutes gone, second term for Grandstand AFL.
McAvoy went down, Wingard, overrun the footy. Taylor just releases here with North Melbourne, and he kicks it forward. But Larky just in a bad position again, and Hardigan is proving really hard to get around with his body. He gave it off to Hartley, spearing kick forward in the Cousins direction. He can't take the mark. Ball to be won, Warple, ground level. Gave it off to Impey, back to Cousins in turn. Now to Hartley, who kicks inside 50. Not a great kick at all. And Kane Turner, the little man, is there to take a juggling mark.
So Turner for the Roos now. It's inside Hawthorn's attacking 50, but in North Melbourne's hands. Light football, clears defensive 50. There were 2-on-1, but Thomas was good enough for the Roos to float across and take the mark, and he plays on immediately. He sees something out of the corner of his eye. He kicks to left half forward. Hartley had to be quick. He gave it off to McAvoy, and speaking of quick, he releases Frost, who gives it to Wingard in the middle of the ground. Frost kept running. Chain of handballs, now the Hawks. Over to O'Meara, who gives it over to Moore. He's got some time and space. By hand again, this time Morrison. He shoves away the tackler, gave it to Moore. This would be absolute cream from the Hawks. The best passage of play for the afternoon. Exquisite chain of handballs from the Hawks, and Moore got on the end of it. Finished off the goal. Hawthorn 8-5-53, a much needed goal. North Melbourne 5-2-32. 25 and a half gone, second term. Grandstand AFL, David Lithgow, Matthew Capuano.
Yeah, disappointing from the Kangaroos, and I'm sure David Noble will be looking to his forwards coach to really try and get these key North Melbourne forwards contesting the ball in the front half of the ground. I reckon there was 4 or 5 instances in the last 5 minutes where North Melbourne have won the ball off half back. The ball's been kicked in, and the Hawks have either marked the ball or won the ball back straight away. And in that particular passage of play, the ball goes the length of the ground and ends up in a Hawthorn score.
Wasn't the former Demon Sam Frost dynamic there off half back with a couple of handballs in that chain? What a goal it was to the Hawks. Back in the middle, Campbell won it down. Davies Uniacke starting to get his hands on the footy with the clearance. Gave off a handball to Campbell. Kick forward, a fly from Taylor. Couldn't take the mark. Good enough to get a handball to Lazaro. Flying shot on goal. He perhaps had a bit more time than he thought. Hasn't even snuck in for a behind. It's gone out of bounds. Right forward pocket. Hawks with a kick in.
Scrimshaw takes the mark from the Frost kick in. It's left half back for the Hawks. Short to Hardwick now, still inside defensive 50. He's got Mitchell on short if he wants. He says no. So he just peruses his options, plays on now. Around he goes, kicks beyond the broadcast wing. Big fist at the back from Mackay. Fall of the ball was Turner, couldn't gather cleanly. Moore could. Handball was excellent. Eventually it was Kaczynski who was released. A handball forward, perhaps one too many for the Hawks, to Shields. Back to Kaczynski, who attempted to just rectify his work. His flying shot on goal, sadly for Hawthorn fans, is offline and out of bounds on the full.
He's got some talent, Kaczynski, Matty. So the Roos, 28 minutes gone, the second quarter. Zeeble, ball in hand. Kicks it outside 50. Campbell went up, couldn't take the mark. McAvoy from behind with the spoil. Shields down low, couldn't gather the crummet. Goes over the boundary line. About 80 metres around now from the Hawks' goal. 21 points the margin. Late goal here, momentum-wise. You would think vital for both sides. Campbell won it down. Simpkin couldn't gather. Cunnington went through, but it opened up the gate again for Simpkin, who gathered it and banged it forward into the centre of the ground. Bouncing ball ends up here with Mitchell. Tackled immediately, gave off a handball to Impey. Now, what's the umpire says here? A throw, maybe? And he has. Taylor Garner with the free kick, just defensive side of the centre.
So Garner, he'll go right across the ground where Walker awaits on centre wing on the outer side. Inboard he goes to Zeeble. So he's in the middle of York Park. Back to where it came. Walker, who's got Hall. Right, left half forward. Over the top now. Go the Roos via Atley. Right football inside 50. A 3-on-1. Frost over the top with the fist. It fell to Larkey, who was tackled. He got his handball out only as far as Phillips, who gives it to Bruce. Deep in defence, the Hawks. A tumbler outside defensive 50. The boundary line will beat Walker to the footy. There'll be a call for a deliberate or an insufficient attempt. Umpire says no, throw it in please. Centre wing outer side, 29 minutes gone, second term.
Campbell doing a lot of the ruck work late in this second quarter, and he won it down again. Davies-Uniacke couldn't gather it. Cousins went through. Eventually Campbell had a crack at it down low, gave it off to handball to Cunnington, who immediately turned it over in the O'Meara direction, who spears the pass to O'Brien, who takes the mark. Kick and a half out from goal. O'Brien. He'll drive it long. Kaczynski's in front spot. Over the top, Mackay did well with the fist and spoiled it. Into Zeeble direction, just pounded it forward in the Bruce direction. Had a flying shot on goal. Dangerous bit of play again then from the Roos, but they save face just to behind. 22 points the margin. Hawks in control.
Zeeble ambles out of the defensive square, takes a bounce and kicks beyond defensive 50. Impey the early fly, but Larkey stood his ground and took a nice juggling mark. He's at right half back for North Melbourne. They trailed by 22 points deep into the first half here in Launceston. Kick towards centre wing now in the Zerha direction. He flew at the back, did enough to bring the footy to ground level. Simpkin was ravaged by O'Meara, and it was too high. Umpire was quick on the whistle. He'll get the free kick just back of a wing, near side, in front of the interchange benches. So can they pitch one here in the shadows of the first half? Up the line goes Simpkin, but getting back in the hole was Scrimshaw, who takes the mark in front of Campbell. He's at left half back for the Hawks.
Having a good game as well. He transfers play to Sam Frost at fullback, who gives off a handball to Mitchell, who goes to the outer side where the former Pine Phillips takes the mark. Chips closer here again to Mitchell, just mucking around with things a little bit. I'm not sure what they've achieved in that play, and eventually now they'll come back to Phillips, who took the mark on the siren. Fascinating quarter it was. Hawks in control early, but 4 goals to 3, and North Melbourne have just narrowed the margin. Hawthorn 8 goals, 6-54, lead North Melbourne 5-32. Goal scorers for the Hawks: Bruce with 1, Wingard with a couple, as does Kaczynski, Lewis, Shields and Moore with singles. And for the Roos, Goldstein with 1, Zerha, Garner, Larkey and Taylor with 1 apiece. So at half-time, 22 points the margin here at York Park.
Hello, ABC News with David Rowlands. The Palestinian Health Ministry says at least 7 people have died in an Israeli air attack that struck a refugee camp in Gaza, including a woman and her 4 children inside their home. More from the BBC's Rashdi Abu Alouf.
Shortly after the attack, Hamas, the militant group, said that they have fired about 10 rockets towards the Israeli city of Beersheba. It's about 40 kilometers away from Gaza, and they said the recent rockets were fired in retaliation to the killing of the innocent civilian, according to a statement by the Hamas armed wing sent to the BBC.
The Federal Treasurer says Australians barred from returning home from India today will be able to apply for future flights. The first repatriation flight out of Darwin in weeks has landed in out of New Delhi in weeks has landed in Darwin as the government's travel ban on the country comes to an end. However, 70 passengers were unable to board the plane either because they tested positive to COVID or are considered close contacts. Josh Frydenberg says the health measure is necessary.
Flights have now started. That's a positive development. But again, we've got to maintain our health settings because we know how damaging both to the lives and the livelihoods of Australians an outbreak here would be.
Western Australia has recorded no new cases of COVID-19 overnight in hotel quarantine or in the community. Health authorities are monitoring 8 active cases and 1 patient is in intensive care in hospital. The head of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, has warned that the second year of the pandemic is likely to be deadlier than the first. Dr. Tedros also urged wealthier countries to postpone vaccinating children and adolescents.
Right now, I urge them to reconsider and to instead donate vaccines to COVAX, because in low and lower middle income countries, vaccine supply has not been enough to even immunize health and care workers.
Victorian Treasurer Tim Pallas has defended tax hikes in the upcoming budget, including a 10% increase in traffic fines. Stamp duty will jump 1% for properties worth more than $2 million, and fees and charges will rise for obtaining a licence or planning permit. Land tax or non-owner occupied properties worth more than $1.8 million will be an extra 0.25%, while it will increase 0.3% for properties valued at more than $3 million. Mr. Pallas says there are all measures to help reduce the state's deficit, which was severely affected by the pandemic.
This is entirely consistent with the calls from the International Monetary Fund and with plans announced by the President of the United States to mobilise new revenue from those in the best position to contribute to support our fiscal and economic recovery.
2 men accused of shooting at police during a pursuit in northern New South Wales are in custody. Sarah Hawke reports.
Police tried to pull over a vehicle as it left a fast food restaurant at Tamworth just before 3 o'clock this morning. The driver didn't stop. A pursuit followed that lasted about 3/4 of an hour. It's alleged the passenger leant out the window and pointed a firearm at police. Officers ended up putting up spikes. That caused the vehicle to crash into a golf course fence. Police eventually chased the passenger and driver down and arrested them. Bullet marks were found in the bonnet and windscreen of an unmarked police car.
The Canberra Raiders face the Canterbury Bulldogs in Brisbane this afternoon to kick off day 2 of the NRL's Magic Round at Lang Park. The Bulldogs have tasted victory just once this season, and while the Raiders aren't faring quite as badly as that, their coach Ricky Stewart says he's quite sure that his counterpart Trent Barrett is having similar conversations to what he is.
I'd say Trent will be having the same press conference. I'm sure they're working hard to turn their week around in regards to a loss to a win. I've been watching a lot of the games this week, and teams aren't just running out and beating them. They've got to work hard to get into a position to win.
And a joint rescue effort involving the Australian Maritime Safety Authority and the Australian Defence Force is underway off the Western Australian coast. The authority says it's received a distress call from an Indonesian fishing boat on Thursday, 1,200 kilometres off the coast of Perth. An AMSA Challenger jet was used to drop 2 life rafts to the vessel early yesterday morning. Australian authorities don't believe the vessel is a people smuggling boat. ABC News.
For the latest sports results and stories from around the globe and at home, check out ABC Sport on our social pages. Just search ABC Sport wherever you scroll.
Get your garden in shape with the May issue of ABC Gardening Australia magazine. Check out the most romantic roses, pick up tips for growing garlic, and learn how to prune with confidence. And in ABC Organic Gardener magazine, it's all about colourful carrots, healthy chooks, and foraging for tasty mushrooms. Gardening Australia and Organic Gardener magazines. Available from newsagents and abcmagazines.com.au.
The 2021 AFL Premiership season on ABC Radio and on ABC Sport Digital.
Inside 50 now go the Hawks. Lewis got in front, out-pointed his opponent, read the footy better and plucked it. So Lewis leans back on the kick and extends the margin to 32 points. Mitch Lewis kicks his first of the afternoon.
Gathered by Hartley, gave off a handball to Scrimshaw, ill-directed. Zurhaar gathered, went down low and was taken high. Well, he's going to kick from about 25 metres out. He's on a tight enough angle to make you nervous. Zurhaar, though, makes no mistake. Kicks the first goal of the second quarter for the Roos, and wasn't it much needed.
Wingard kept going. He takes it on the bounce, and a small chipping ball over the top was an absolute beauty to Shields, who marks 30 metres out from goal on a tight-ish angle, but he'll have a shot, you would think. Liam Shields, and he comes right foot ball. He kicks the goal, so Liam Shields kicks his first of the afternoon.
The crumb ended up here with Davies Uniacke. He shook off Warple. Kick forward is a good one, and Curtis Taylor takes the mark, and he's going to ask for 50, and he's going to get it right in front of the Hawthorn members here. He's kicked the goal. So the Kangas, 2 goals in 2 minutes, and that margin, as mentioned, 15 points.
Chain of handballs, now the Hawks. Over to O'Meara, who gives it over to Moore. He's got some time and space. By hand again, this time Morrison. He shoves away the tackler, gave it to Moore. This would be absolute cream from the Hawks. The best passage of play for the afternoon. Exquisite chain of handballs from the Hawks.
The 2021 AFL Premiership season on ABC Radio and on ABC Sport Digital.
Grandstand AFL live from York Park in Launceston, Hawthorn and North Melbourne. It is the Hawks by 22 points at half-time. Hawthorn 8-6-54 lead the Roos 5-32 in a bit of a scrap in Launceston, it must be said, between the 17th and 18th ranked teams in the competition. One other game being played as we speak in Sydney, and it is the Swans and the Magpies. 15 and a half minutes through the third term in that game. It is the Swans 5-6-36, leading Collingwood 4-4-28. If you're just tuning in, welcome to wherever you are tuning in from. You're with Chris Robottom, David Lithgow and Matthew Capuano as we jump into the first half of this intriguing encounter between Hawthorn and North Melbourne. David Lithgow with some goal kickers and some leading disposal winners from the first half.
2 multiples for the Hawks, both in the first quarter, to Wingard and Kaczynski. Singles to Bruce, Lewis, Shields and Moore, and all singles for the Kangaroos. Goldstein, Zurhaar, Garner, Larkey, and that last goal from Curtis Taylor via a 50-metre penalty. The stats, Simpkin, oh, he's been very good. I thought he had one of the best quarters of his young career, Matty, in that second quarter. He's up to 18 touches. Does he kick it all right? Does he kick it all right, Simpkin? Does he? Oh, that's the only query on him. Have a think about that. Tell me in a minute. Cunnington with 17. Davies Uniacke with 12. Zeeble with 11. Hall with 11. 10 to, if I look down the bottom, to Walker, and for the Hawks, Hardwick with 16, as does Shields. Cousins with 15. Mitchell 13. Scrimshaw and Moore with 13, and a dozen to Amira and Wingard. Matty Simpkin, what's he like with his foot?
Yeah, mate. Well, look, we can see the ability that he has to win the ball, like you say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that probably one part of his game you'd love to see him get a bit better at is his how he uses his football and his effectiveness. So look, you're probably right. He is giving some drive out of the midfield,
Isn't he? What? Yes.
Along with Ben Cunnington, who I reckon is such an important part of this North Melbourne footy team, particularly through this midfield. But look, from a midfield perspective, look, the Kangas got back into the contest in the stoppage midfield game, and which was really pleasing. And I reckon, it was off the back of, and that was actually what we saw in them starting to get back into the game.
You're almost with North Melbourne. It's in terms of breathing like a fish. If Cunnington's playing well, then they're a chance, aren't they? He really is such a beacon in this team.
And I'm sure that you'd love to play with him, and you'd hate to be playing against him because he's a big contested bull, and really is an important part of this North Melbourne footy team.
So it was Hawthorn by 26 points at the first change. That's been reeled back in to 22 at the main break. And you speak of Simpkin and perhaps his use by foot, and the same could possibly be said for some of the Hawthorn midfielders as well, in particular James Cousins, who has had a lot of the footy. He's a young emerging player who's just trying to make his way and break his way into this Hawthorn midfielder. One of the young players that perhaps the Hawks are going to be pinning some hopes on in years to come, that is perhaps just a little off the mark by foot as well.
I'm just it's interesting. I look at the disposal efficiency, and Simpkin's gone at 67%, 7% today. But the beauty of his game, his 18 touches, is 13 have been contested. That's a huge amount from a young bull. Matty, the Hawks, they're fascinating to watch in this period at the moment, aren't they? Because of their nice sprinkles of youth, but they've got out-and-out stars that in the peak of their, powers, and Amira and Mitchell and Wingard in particular, and a handful of veterans, etc. And they've got that mid-tier, haven't they, in Hardwick, I guess, and Warple. They're a really fascinating team, aren't they? It's really hard to get a gauge on where they're at. I don't know that I don't like them, but I don't know that I do. What's your thoughts?
Look, I think that when you see the best of the Hawks, look, they can be really exciting and provide something really positive. I think that, as in we've got both of these teams that are 17th and 18th at the moment, in different stages of development, and you get periods of the game where you see them dominate. And they're really effective, and you've seen it today. They've when they've had control of the game and control of the ball, they've been able to transition inside 50 and score, which is really positive. And I guess that they probably just have those periods when the momentum changes, as in what happened in the second quarter with the Kangaroos, and they were able to hit the scoreboard and get back into this game after a really disappointing start.
Well, Chris, I'll ask you as the resident Hawthorn person, let's put your list management hat on for me, please. So we talked about those stars, and Mitchell at 27, Amira at 27, Wingard at 27, all absolutely in their prime. They've still got the veterans that played in premierships like McAvoy and Shields, wonderful Warriors, etc. And then they've got that, can we call it that middle brigade, I guess, of Morrison and Hardwick. Howe's not there today. Hanrahan's moving into it. I find it such an eclectic bunch every time I look at it. What do you do at the end of the year? Do you say, righto, we got to get more youth in here, we've got to keep going this direction? Do you throw a Amir or Mitchell on the trade table? I mean, do you try, while they've got value, can you get a first-round pick for them?
The problem I feel with the Hawks at the moment is you've got this overlap of the two philosophies.
Exactly.
The first philosophy being
well
the top-up at the end of the 2015, 16, 17 sort of era, where they went for Tom Mitchell and Jager O'Meara, Chad
to try
Wingard,
and keep it going.
Just try and keep the core of the flag set up going and just top up and keep going. But then at the other end, you've got the youngsters. So Jath, who I think they've found one in, and Scrimshaw's a good player, and Kazitsky I think is going to be okay.
Moore's been okay today.
Moore's been okay, and James Cousins, but the two aren't quite meshing.
No,
and I think Warple is symbolic of that. He's a good young player who, when he gets his opportunity, takes it with both hands. But as long as Mitchell, O'Meara, Shields are in that mid setup, and they currently still are, and their best 22 players, you can't quite usher him through as well as you'd like to. So that's my take. The question of whether or not you'd trade Mitchell or O'Meara or Wingard, well, I'm not sure you trade Wingard. We've seen today, I think he's young enough to be a part of perhaps the next push. Do you look at Mitchell? I'm not too sure. There'd be teams that would give up a pretty penny for someone like Tom Mitchell. But speaking off air with Matty about this a little earlier, there's intangibles around that as well. You traded Tom Mitchell on paper, if you're playing fantasy football, sure, but the thing that what that could potentially do to the fabric of your footy club.
That's right.
You know, he's a leader, he's a Brownlow medalist, he sets standards, he's a professional, and he's a gun player. You can't just do this willy-nilly, and I know Alistair Clarkson has a bit of a track record of doing that, but it's not as easy as it sounds to just trade Tom Mitchell for a first rounder. It's just not as easy as it sounds. It's like at the start of the year with Jack Gunston. There was some talk around maybe getting rid of Jack Gunston for a first rounder. Sure, but what that might do and the flow-on effects and the intangible effects that might have, you've got to weigh those in as well. So we've said it all day. Fascinating spot, the Hawks. Fork in the road spot, I think. Which way they go will be really interesting.
Well, you see, Matty, we ticked a few on the North Melbourne perspective, 21 and under today. So Marnie, Taylor, Davies Uniacke, Young, who looks likely, Larkey, Powell, Mackay's still very young at 23 but hasn't played much footy, Tarrant Thomas, Phillips, who is not out there now, but we might see him as a sub if he gets a chance. Lazaro's been dangerous, and Zurhaar's very young. They seem to have the structure, albeit perhaps not by design, but it's a little bit more, settled. And again, we're talking about, 2024 or 5, perhaps when you're trying to play finals footy again.
Yeah, and you list those names, and we've spoken a little bit about, the expectations externally and internally for these two teams, and how we spoke in the pre-match about today's result and today's game with North Melbourne, about, they really are coming from the point of just nothing to lose, take the game on, whatever happens, happens. They haven't won a game yet, but probably on the whole, everyone's probably expecting Hawthorn to win today, versus Hawthorn coming from the highest of highs of their previous 10 to 15 years and the standards that have been set and the position they're in at the moment and the expectation around Hawthorn. It's just two different situations. And look, you go back to trading or keeping some of these senior players. That's so important from a list management perspective. One, how you draft when you get these really, really good low picks, but also how you manage the list.
And you know why I can't completely say they haven't got it right, Hawthorn? Because I feel like we still trust Clarkson. I feel like we still trust his group of Bolton and Newman and their list management, who've done a tremendous job for the last 10 or 12 years. Getting close to third quarter action here at York Park, 22 points the margin. What do you think, Matty?
Well, it's that we always talk about it as the third quarter being, it's the premiership quarter. But, this is a really important quarter for the direction of this game in terms of, look, can the Hawks put a gap in them and put them away, or can the Kangas get back into this contest and really make it an interesting one in the last quarter?
Simpkin and Warple head-to-head, as are the two big giants in Goldstein and McAvoy. Third quarter action here on Grandstand AFL. McAvoy won it down, albeit not cleanly, to O'Meara, who couldn't gather it. Spilled out the back here to Davies Uniacke, who got off a handball to Cunnington, but it was intercepted by Jath, who did really well. Out the back door, it ends up now with McAvoy, whose kick lowered the eyes, was pretty good. Found Phillips at left half back.
So Phillips back inboard, to Jath, who's at the top of the 50. He'll spread things wider again. He flirted with danger, and Larky did really well to get across. He'll win the footy, give it off to Zerho, drop the footy. Hardigan had to go back and mop up the mess. He got it to Impey. Hawk's not out of jail yet. Ball in the hands of Jath, whose kick was chopped off by Simpkin. He couldn't take the mark. It's gathered eventually by Thomas, who gave it off to Young, and the little ball inboard is a good one. North Melbourne will have a set shot on goal via Garner, who'll kick from 40 metres out with only a slight angle to speak of.
Let's go back to the intercept from Larky. You know, that's the kind of play that you want from your, particularly from your forwards, but particularly your talls. He's really created this opportunity.
So here's Garner to chop it back to 16 points. He just left it out to the near side. So a minor score to kick things off in this third term for North Melbourne. Hawthorn 8-6-54. North Melbourne 5-3-33.
Blake Hardwick with the kicking duties, just as the sun going behind the grandstand there at the Invermay Park end. A little chip sideways to Frost. At right half back, now kicks along the line. McAvoy went up with the one hand, couldn't gather it. Fell to Wingard, who just tapped it forward in front of Cousins. He couldn't gather, but they do see it back to centre wing. Of course, the ground's Invermay Park out the back, where Mowbray Eagles play. I think the old Launcestonians play their footy in the winter. It's a tremendous facility, the overall one here at York Park.
Cunnington won the tap from the boundary throw-in. Warple at ground level might have got one in the back. In fact, there's claims for holding the ball, and Cunnington will win a free kick. Warple, bottom of the pack, was adjudged to have dragged it in. Kick into the middle of the ground's a pretty good one. So Davies Uniac marks on his chest in front of Impey. He'll take his kick from closer to centre wing. He flares things out to left half forward. Simpkin takes the mark. Plays on by hand to Young for the ruse. He tries to get round Shields. Shields just grabbed him by the bottom of the jumper. Got it off to Taylor. Kick inboard now is a high one from Garner to a dangerous position. Offhand, it was roved by Bruce, who got it to Mitchell, who goes to the outer side now into the lap of Kaczynski, who marks it right half back for the Hawks.
Let up strong again, Kaczynski. Very good when he's taxed the football. Likely prospect. Plays on, runs his full measure. O'Brien will be the target. Bruce off hands was as clean as a whistle. Flicked out a handball out the back to Mitchell. Kick forward. Wingard. One bite. Couldn't go on the second. Lewis sees it over the boundary line. He came from a long way back. But boundary line thrown. Hawks attacking. 30 metres around. Left forward pocket.
In it comes. McAvoy to the front. Palmed it down. Simpkin was there, as was Turner. Overrun the footy. O'Meara couldn't get a handle. Wingard came through. Hall picked it up, gave it to Simpkin. He's immediately tackled by Cousins. He's swung around 7:20, and it's a free kick to the Hawks, holding the ball 40 metres out in front of goal. And it'll be a free kick to the young midfielder in James Cousins, who we spoke about at the half-time break, who's managed to get his hands on the footy a good amount in the first half. His kicking has let him down a touch, but he'll kick for the first goal of the second half from 40 metres out, directly in front. So Cousins, to extend the margin to 27, puts it through. So James Cousins nails the goal. A wonderful bit of forward pressure. And Hawthorn go to 9-6-60, leading North Melbourne 5-3-33. 4.5 minutes gone. Third term grandstand AFL live from York Park in Launceston.
It's interesting that the interpretation of the holding the ball rule. It's we look at what's been happening, in previous rounds, and there's been talk that maybe they've been letting it go a little bit too much. Well, it seems today that there has been a specific focus on paying that.
He's got the ball and he was immediately tackled. Now, yes, it was a nice tackle, 360 sure, but
prior opportunity flash. It's interesting.
Yeah, the replay was a bit damning. It felt like that live, but nonetheless, it was a good tackle and it was a good finish. And that gives the Hawks a 27-point margin Goldstein won it down, but Mitchell tried to shark it, couldn't gather it cleanly. Goldie went in for another go, but ended up with Davies Uniacke, burst out of the stoppage, gave it to Powell, chipping ball in front of Curtis Taylor. Oh, he dropped a pud. That'll bring Giats into the game, who gathered it. Gave off a handball along the ground to Frost, who's taken down an Amani tackle. Ends up here with Warple, who just kicks to the centre of the ground. Bruce was good with his body work, but couldn't quite take the mark in the end. Shields off the ground. Ends up with Wingard, who flicked off a handball. Ball in dispute. Mackay was taken high. I thought he was. He'll get the free kick at right half back, and the Roos will steady.
Wingard's hands a touch slick for Bruce on the way past, and North Melbourne were able to just slow it down. So the kick ended up with Zeeble, who took on Phillips on the mark. He kicks beyond the defensive wing. Over the top was Frost. Umpire says play on. Taylor emerges with the footy for North Melbourne. Kick inside 50. Getting across was Hardigan. Takes the footy on his chest and plays on immediately. Relieving kick now to Hanrahan, who's got Kaczynski all on his own. A Paddock just back of a wing for the Hawks.
Kaczynski, looks like a really good runner as well. This time making a big lead right up to half back, where he'll take the kick. He'll kick to Mitchell Lewis territory, but he was outpointed by Josh Walker with a bit of extra strength and upper body. He plays on now, gets himself in a little bind, but good enough to flick it out to Kane Turner. In turn to Menadue. Handball over the top now to Marnie. Releases one to Goldstein. Top of 50. Gave it to Curtis Taylor, who had to weave inside some traffic. Back to Goldstein. Kick into the pocket, however, wasn't good. In fact, it's gone out of bounds on the full. Curtis Taylor showing some really good signs there, but eventually let down by Goldstein's kick.
Scrimshaw receives the pass from Frost to resume things. He's got Morrison on short over the top if he wants. He's going to go a little longer. Towards centre wing he goes. McAvoy will get front spot. He couldn't quite bring it down in front of Goldstein. Ground level now. Cunnington went hard, as did Shields. He wrapped him up on the deck. Forces a stoppage just back of a wing. So we're at left half forward here for North Melbourne. Up it goes. Goldstein and McAvoy do the ruck work. Straight down to Powell, who's all wrapped up. We'll have another stoppage at right half back.
We go back to that previous inside 50 with Todd Goldstein. I know teams want to handball themselves out of congestion now to try and get good looks inside 50, but, geez, a quick kick sometimes is really valuable.
McAvoy won it down. Bruce couldn't take it cleanly. Goldstein gathered the crumb and gave it to Cunnington. Left foot kick forward's a good one. And steaming out the big man, Campbell on the second bite. Takes the mark. You have a shot on goal. 45 metres out on a 45-degree angle.
Geez, it was a great kick from Ben Cunnington under pressure and just was able to get that ball into that zone for the forward where he can actually just run into the football and mark it.
5 games for 4 goals before this game today, Campbell. So nearly won a game. He hasn't kicked one today. Taking his best effort from about 48 metres. He starts at way left and just sneaks in for one behind. Kangaroos with a couple of opportunities. 5-4, 34 they trail Hawthorn. 9-6, 69 minutes gone, third quarter.
Kicking duties, Blake Hardwick. He finds Hartley short. Right back pocket. He goes short as well. Scrimshaw, although the fist came across from Powell. It ended up with Marnie, who was wrapped up. It spilled out to Garner. Snap around the body's a goal. So North Melbourne, they get their first of the term. Garner kicks his second, and it's back to 20 points. Hawthorn 9-6-60. North Melbourne 6-4-40. 9.5 gone. Third term for Grandstand AFL.
From a North Melbourne perspective, it's pleasing they've been able to get a good solid look at goal and a score there, because you just see them, winning possession and starting to dominate the game a little bit more, but not really taking advantage of that on the scoreboard. I think, before that goal was kicked, I think they'd kicked 4 straight points. So really important that when they do get those opportunities that they take them.
It's the Swans by 19 points, 7-7-49 to 4-6-30. The Pies, 3/4 time. Swans have turned that one around. Roos working their way back into things. Goldstein in the middle, won it down. Powell couldn't gather it cleanly. They just sort of hurry it forward. Hartley at the bottom of the pack trying to do some work for the Hawks. Amir is there, but he can't get any clean air. Lots of players around the footy. We've moved about 10 metres closer to the Kangaroos' goal, still in the middle of the ground. Goldstead again, won it down. Cunnington grabbed it, but was taken down in a Mitchell tackle. Good enough to get a little kick, which travelled to the 50. Oh, what a take from Garner. For the top of 50, his kick wasn't good, and it landed here with Hartigan. Gee, was clean on the half volley. He's got that ability, Garner. But the Hawks will set up with a little chip now. And Phillips, the former Pie.
Over the top to Impey, who marks still inside defensive 50 for the Hawks. In no rush is Impey. Kangaroos set up fairly well. Eventually goes short to Scrimshaw. Provided the option, did Impey running past, and he's still demanding the footy, but Scrimshaw's going to go to the outer side. Left foot ball. He kicks to a 2-on-1. Cunnington had front spot, couldn't drag it in. Came down to, I think it might have been Jamont, whose kick was clever to find Taylor at the top of the 50. So the short ball ends up with Curtis Taylor, who can kick a second for North Melbourne and make it really interesting.
A little bit of a hush here suddenly.
There is.
It's your butt, isn't there?
Some nervous anticipation perhaps on this kick. We'll have to take a pretty good one. In fact, he just sets it up to a dangerous spot. Hartigan got hands to it, couldn't take the mark. It fell to Mitchell, who got it off to Morrison, who kicked towards the middle of the ground. The bounce did not favour Mitch Lewis. It ended up with Atley for the Roos. Right foot ball now back inside 50. Fist over the top from Hartigan. He spikes it out of bounds. We'll have a boundary throw in 40 metres around from the North Melbourne attacking goal on the outer side.
She's done that a few times today, the former Crow. He's such a massive man. He pounds it over that boundary line when he gets a good fist onto it. Campbell took it out of the air, tried to give it off. Eventually he did and gave it to Thomas. 45 from goal. Swinging ball right to the line, but just to the left-hand side. Just peppering here, the Roos. 19 points the margin. Scrimshaw to bring it back into Phillips.
Left back pocket is Tom Phillips. It's just the tension sort of builds here in Launceston. Up the line he goes. Mitch Lewis hands to it. Couldn't bring it down. Now it's O'Brien wrapping up Young in a strong tackle. It'll be a stoppage at left half forward.
Just going to keep an eye on down there. Phillips is doing some lots and lots of run-throughs at the moment. So whether there's a little injury concern there.
So Mira came bursting through, fed out the handball. In fact, he's been called for holding the ball. Might have been incorrect disposal as he got rid of the footy. The free kick came via the boot of Tom Powell, who hits Lazaro. So now Charlie Lazaro will have a shot on goal from about 50 metres out, and you would think it would take his best work as well. But again, North Melbourne attacking and dominating the play as it stands. Matthew Capuano.
Pleasing signs from the Kangas defensively. You know, when Hawthorn are getting hold of that football in their back half, they just really haven't anywhere to go, and the Kangas are winning it back in the mid part of the ground.
So Lazaro from just inside 50 sends it all the way to the line. It's just missing to the right-hand side for a minor score. So Hawthorn 9-6-60 lead North Melbourne 6-6-42. 14 and a half gone third term.
Hartley to bring things back in for the Hawks. That's 4 behinds now in the quarter. For the Regis, it's a suspect kick. Jamont's there to force the contest. Hard up against the boundary line. Impey's tackling down low. The Hawks fans getting a little bit agitated, but wasn't a good kick from the former Bomber. So we've got a stoppage. 45 metres around from the Kangas' goal. Campbell won it down to Cunnington. Burst through a couple. Gave off a handball to Jamont, who just kicked it forward. Oh, a little chance from Marnie. One out, bending ball, got it. He was clever. He palmed it down with one hand, grabbed the purchase of it, snapped with the left. Bouncing ball, and he kicks the goal, and we're back to 12 points. Hawthorn 9-6-60 lead North Melbourne 7-6-48. 15 minutes gone, third quarter. Matthew Capuano for Grandstand AFL.
You described it really well, Flashy. That was a cracking goal. And look, as I've been talking about this quarter, is North Melbourne have dominated really the last 10 minutes of play and have been peppering the goals. They need to take advantage of these opportunities when they come, because they need to stay in touch and try and get in front in this contest.
9-6-60, the Hawks, North Melbourne 7-6-48. And all of a sudden, York Park, the volume has been turned down just a touch as Hawthorn fans get a little nervous. Just 12 points the margin now. They led by as many as 32 earlier in this game. 26 at quarter time. McAvoy does the ruck work straight down the Warple. Wingard's been injected into the midfield. It was O'Meara who picked it up and just sent a high ball towards right half forward. Getting to the footy first was Cousins. He gave it to Shields, but he's run over the line. Umpire says throw it in at right half forward for the Hawks, in desperate need of a goal. North Melbourne have kicked the last 2 and 2 of 3 in this term.
2 goals for as well, so they've had a lot of opportunities. Now it's at the Hawthorn end, 60 from goal, ruck tap. Sort of favoured Warple, but it bounced away for him back over the boundary line. And we'll have another boundary line thrown, 60 metres around from the goal. Hawks are attacking to the city end. The ground now is sort of half shaded from the grandstand. The sun disappearing here in Launceston. Ball goes up. Campbell couldn't win it down. Wingard sharked it. Kicked it forward, about 40 from goal. No one's there to take the mark. Morrison was good with the crumb. Gave it off to Shield. Snapped towards goal. Zeeble was there to meet it and saw it over for 1 behind. So that margin now, 13 points, 17 minutes gone, third quarter.
Zeeble has Aaron Hall, the Tasmanian short, right back pocket. He plays on by hand as Holder Mackay, who had Zeeble running past. He went one way, then the other. Eventually received it, did Zeeble. Right foot kick towards centre wing. Scrimshaw front spot, couldn't bring it down. Young at ground level for the Roos, fighting hard. Giath arrives. It'll be a contested footy on the outer side and a stoppage. So a ball up on centre wing, outer side. 17 and a half gone, third term. Hawthorn lead 9-7-61 to North Melbourne. 7-6-48. Out of the stoppage was O'Meara and Thomas butting heads, and they go to ground. No clean possession won. It'll be all wrapped up as the umpire circles, blows his whistle and says, "I'll have it, please."
Right on centre wing. Goldstein won it down. Tarrant Thomas went together, but he was taken down immediately in a very strong tackle from Warple. Just the attacking side of centre wing, which the Hawks are kicking towards the city end. The umpire throws it up again. Davies Uniacke sharked it beautifully from Goldstein tap. The kick forward now in the Larky direction. Punch again from Hardigan down the back. Davies Uniacke followed up his work. Gave it off to Marnie. In turn now to Powell. Inside 50. Kangaroos working. Charlie Lazzaro's there. He couldn't gather. Scrubby kick comes out, but it's all North Melbourne, where Connor Menadue takes the mark 60 from goal. Assesses his option. Hawks have got back in numbers here. Can he spot someone up? Menadue. Kick forward, Larkin. Thomas over the back with a fly. Crumbed his own work. Gave it to Davies Uniacke. 15 from goal. Snap on goals, a beauty. The two young guns combining. Thomas was a leap off the half volley. And Davies Uniacke brings the margin back now to 7 points. Hawthorn 9-7-61. Lead North Melbourne 8-6-54. 19 minutes gone, third quarter action.
A little bit of X factor from Tarrant Thomas there, and really created a goal out of nothing. But interesting the way the Kangas are setting up around the ground. Just probably for the last 5 minutes, they've had Todd Goldstein come up the ground as a forward and play in the ruck, and they've had Tom Campbell sitting behind the ball as a +1, which really left KJ as a +1 in the Hawthorn back half.
9-7-61, North Melbourne 8-6-54. Tarrant Thomas playing a hand in the Davies Uniacke goal. And a real scrap on our hands now. How will the Hawks respond? Back in the middle we go. Campbell and McAvoy. Campbell won the tap. Simpkin's been enormous this afternoon. He runs straight into trouble. He got a high one though. So Simpkin will have a chance to put North Melbourne forward. He tried to release a player off half back in Hall. He missed the handball. It ended up with Wingard, who kicks towards half forward. Warple inside forward 50. Couldn't trap the footy. Coming through was Campbell, who took on the tackler. He stripped it of the footy and the umpire agrees. Holding the ball, Tom Campbell. Free kick, Hawthorn. It'll end up with Warple. He'll have a shot for goal. 45 metres out directly in front. Desperately needed for the Hawks.
Those kind of turnovers are just killers, aren't they? Particularly when you are dominating possession and getting yourself back into the game.
And they were streaming forward too, weren't they, Matty?
Just the 2 goals in season 2021 for James Warple. In he comes from just inside 50. Distance, no issue. And it hits the post. A minor score. So drama starting to build here in Launceston.
Zeeble quickly brings it into Hall, takes the mark, gives it back to Zeeble, who switched the play now to the outer side, where Walker takes the mark. Suddenly momentum very much with the Kangaroos. And the chipping ball again finds Aaron Hall, who's that lieutenant across half back again today. He tucks it under the arm eventually, runs his full measure. Kick along the wing. Not taken by Curtis Taylor. Cunnington went down low. He couldn't gather it cleanly. Goldstein on hands and knees, lending a hand with the big fella McAvoy, who's all heads, knees and elbows as always. But defensive side, the Hawks. Attacking side of centre wing, where the Roos are attacking.
Wingard couldn't win a possession out of the stoppage. Davies Uniacke caught a terrific handball over the top to Simpkin, who's was legged in the end. The Wingard tackle just lingered and it slid down the legs. He released Aaron Hall immediately, who fires on goal from 50 all the way to the line. Thomas was there, but the Hawks defence scrambles and manages to work it out of bounds.
Geez, I reckon the umpire was just about to just pay the holding the ball, and he just changed his mind and paid the legs.
Deep forward here for the Roos. Goldstein, left hand, flicked it up over the top. Davies Uniacke couldn't take it the first time, but Mitchell gathered and Davies Uniacke took him down on a wonderful tackle. The umpire said didn't have enough time to release the footy. Well, she's just developing the young man. He stuck Mitchell with a terrific tackle then. Goldstein won it down. Davies Uniacke again, sharked it 30 metres from goal. Big opportunity. He snapped to the right-hand side for another behind. The 5th of the quarter for the Roos. 7 points, the margin. Hawks in control, but only on the scoreboard. 23 minutes gone.
Scrimshaw with the footy. Lopes out from full-back. He's got a player on his own at left half-back in Frost, who marks right on the paint of 50. His kick is an absolute nightmare. Gives it straight up to Cunnington. Inside 50 go North Melbourne. Thomas was the target. Scrimshaw got across. And it's out of bounds on the outer side in the right forward pocket. North Melbourne have wrestled back control of this game. As David Lithgow said, they trail on the scoreboard, but they are dominating general play. Handball out from Scrimshaw now to Wingard, who just throws it on the boot, high up and under towards centre wing. Zeeble at the back takes a strong mark.
Just attacking side of centre wing, Zeeble. He feigned to kick long, but then eventually just kicked a short one to Young, who goes short himself, to where Simpkin comes up and takes the mark. About 75 from goal, right half forward. Simpkin. He'll kick now. Larky will be the flyer at the crumb. Curtis Taylor went down low. He was taken in a good tackle. Flipped out here to Thomas. Another shot on goal, but off the instep. It ends up going across the face. But I don't think it's gone out in the full. And it's rolled out for a boundary line throw-in. 25 metres around from the Kangas goal, left forward pocket.
Davies Uniacke and Thomas combining again.
Terrific.
Something to get excited about, Roos fans. In it comes. Still inside the Roos forward 50. There's LDU again. He was tackled by Mitchell. Couldn't win a clean disposal. Mitchell tried to take on Simpkin. Got his handball out to O'Meara. Flashing through was Hardigan. The Hawks holding on for dear life. Deep in defence as it goes out of bounds. Another boundary throw in. 5 metres around from the left-hand behind post. North Melbourne deep in attack.
You feel like they almost deserve another one for their efforts here. They've been attacking with Will. Goldstein followed up his work, then got his own footy, gave off a handball, shot on goal, and it's a goal to the Roos. And it's from Zurha again. He's got a couple, and the margin now 1 point. Goldstein outstanding, and the Roos, they are coming. The Hawks 9-8-62, lead North Melbourne 9-7-61. 25 minutes gone, third quarter.
Love to see it, Flash. Todd Goldstein created that opportunity for North Melbourne there, and you can just see that the Kangaroos players are just starting to believe that, you know, they've got a sniff here and they've got a chance of winning their first game of the season.
Well, you say you love to see it. There's two things you like, and one's the Kangaroos and two's Ruckman. So everything's involved at the moment, isn't it? He was terrific there, the big guy, wasn't he, Goldie? Just followed up his work.
1 point ball game at York Park. Hawthorn led by as many as 32 points. North Melbourne have pegged them back. They've kicked 7 of the last 9. Hawthorn 9-8-62. North Melbourne 9-7-61. Back in the middle. Goldstein now with an extra spring in his step. Simpkin again, another touch for him. Kick towards Dumont on the wing. Morrison flew. Out it came to Cunnington, who fed it back to Turner, who gave it to Simpkin. He spreads it wide. Davies-Uniacke has lifted enormously for North Melbourne. He gathers the footy, but he's taken over the boundary line as a little bit of spice just emerges. Warple involved. Boundary throw in. Just right half forward for the Hawks. And it comes. Goldstein with a double tap down to Davies-Uniacke, who gave it to Dumont. Got a high one from Mitchell. Free kick North Melbourne, left half back.
Isn't Davies-Uniacke having a wow of a quarter? Dumont's kick laterally finds Atley. What you can see from a young 21-year-old, give another 1 or 2 years, he is a dead set bull when the footy's around. Kick along the line, Larky territory. Did well to keep it in the contest. Down to Simpkin, did really well. Curtis Taylor's there to try and just muscle it forward for the Kangaroos. Dumont went down to try and grab it. Warple took him down. There's a little bit of spite here now. Extra niggle, if you like, at the bottom of this pack. It's dead centre wing. 28 minutes gone. Campbell's done a lot of the ruck work and he won that one down. But Kaczynski's there to shark him. He's dispossessed. Cunnington gave it to Powell. Kicked forward about 30 out. Went over the head of Zurha, and Frost with the relieving mark.
So Frost out to Hardwick, who takes it on the run. He plays on. He had Impey short. He goes a little longer towards the outer wing. Shields takes the mark in front of Young. He's just back of a wing for the Hawks, who are just clinging on. Runs his full measure to Shields. He'll kick towards half forward where a pack will form. O'Brien flying across, got hands to it as he so often does. Couldn't complete the mark at ground level now. Zeeble lays a tackle. And it's all wrapped up at left half forward for the Hawks. 28 and a half gone in this third term. Hawthorn lead by just a solitary point. 9-8-62. North Melbourne 9-7-61.
McAvoy won this time down to Warple, who's snapping ball to about 30 out from goal. Kaczynski's there to get in front of Zeeble. Did really well. Just fisted down in front of him. Hanrahan gathered. Gave off a handball to Frost, who was taken down in a wonderful tackle. Dispossessed from Zurha, and Zeeble, take your pick with the free kick. Zeeble's going to be the recipient. Also a little bit of a elbow perhaps up there from Frost to make things a little interesting, but the gang tackling wonderful from the Roos. Now Zeeble has just chipped laterally here to Aaron Hall. He's got no option, so he just kicks a really wobbly one which floats in the middle of the ground. Taylor should have taken the mark. Ended up here though with Hardigan on the ground. Mitchell through the middle of the ground. Gave off the handball to Shields, who goes forward to Kaczynski on the half volley. Really clean take. Gave off a handball here to O'Brien. Kick forward. Oh, but that's a good mark from Dumont. Drop it in the hole. And relieving here for the Roos.
North Melbourne have absolutely lifted. Every player playing or drawing on that extra little bit of willpower at the moment. They can sniff their first win of the season. Still a long way to go, though. The Hawks with the footy. The tumbler inside forward 50 is no good. It'll land in the lap of Aaron Hall, right half back, who again has been good today and has seen plenty of the footy. His kick is intended for Young. It missed him. Hawthorn had the numbers, and there goes the three-quarter time siren, and it couldn't come soon enough for Hawthorn, who lead now 9-8-62 to 9-7-61. The 22-point half-time lead whittled down to just one. We might have some leading disposals and goal kickers with David Lithgow.
So in that quarter, goals to Garner, Lazaro, Zurha kicked the second, and Davies Uniacke. And for the Hawks, just the one to Cousins. So that margin at halftime was 22 points. It was 26 points at quarter time, and the Roos have brought it back to 1 point. I'm not sure what the scoring end is. We'll come back and talk about it shortly. Just a quick score from the SCG. The Swans have kicked another goal, and they lead by 24 points. But here at York Park, on Grandstand AFL, the Kangaroos are coming, and they trail by just 1 point.
ABC Sport on Social is your sports conversation on the go. Video, player insight and analysis. This is the content you never knew you needed. Get ABC Sport wherever you scroll.
Charlie Pickering. I'm just setting up my new ABC account. By providing some personal information, they'll make sure that I get more of what I love based on what I watch, read and listen to. They'll ensure that any information I do provide is kept safe and secure. Soon you'll need an account to stream shows on ABC iView, but if you like, you can also use it for other ABC apps and websites. No, you can't see my watch list.
For more information on what an ABC account has to offer, head to abc.net.au/ABC account.
The 2021 AFL Premiership season on ABC Radio and on ABC Sport Digital.
Hall picked it up, gave it to Simpkin. He's immediately tackled by Cousins. He's swung around 7:20, and it's a free kick to the Hawks, holding the ball 40 metres out in front of goal. For Cousins to extend the margin to 27, puts it through. So James Cousins nails the goal. A wonderful bit of forward pressure. Hartley short, right back pocket. He goes short as well, Scrimshaw, although the fist came across from Powell. It ended up with Marnie, who was wrapped up. It spilled out to Garner. Snap around the body's a goal. So North Melbourne, they get their first of the term. Garner kicks his second.
Campbell won it down to Cunnington, burst through a couple, gave off a handball to Jamont, who just kicked it forward. Oh, a little chance from Marnie. One out, bending ball, got it. He was clever. He palmed it down with one hand, broke the purchase of it, snapped with the left. Bouncing ball, and he kicks the goal, and we're back to 12 points. Kick forward, Larkin. Thomas over the back with a fly. Crumbed his own work. Gave it to Davies Uniacke. 15 from goal. Snap on goal's a beauty. The two young guns combining. Thomas was elite off the half volley. Goldstein followed up his work, then got his own footy, gave off a handball, shot on goal, and it's a goal to the Roos. And it's from Zurha again. He's got a couple, and the margin now 1 point.
The 2021 AFL Premiership season on ABC Radio and on ABC Sport Digital.
Three-quarter time at York Park in Launceston. Hawthorn taking on North Melbourne. The Hawks at quarter time led by 26. At half-time they led by 22. And at the latest change they lead by just 1 point. A grandstand finish coming up for you on Grandstand AFL. The Hawks and the Roos. Hawthorn 9-8-62. North Melbourne 9-7-61. The winless North Melbourne, perhaps sniffing their first taste of success in 2021. Hawthorn hanging on for grim life here in Launceston. A belter of a finish coming up in this fourth and final term. Chris Robottom with you in commentary with David Lithgow and Matthew Capuano. Lads, how did you see it and how do you see it? in this fourth and final term.
It's going to be a really interesting last quarter in terms of which way this one goes. You know, the Kangaroos dominate that quarter and get themselves back into it. If you look at their season so far, they haven't been able to put together a consistent 4 quarters of football. And then if you look at the opposition in Hawthorn, in the last time we saw them play down here against Adelaide, they were able to overcome a pretty significant deficit to get their noses in front and beat Adelaide. So really, which way this one's going to go from a Hawthorn perspective, look, I'm sure that Alistair Clarkson will be saying, particularly to that midfield, let's roll the sleeves up and start winning some of the footy and trying to get the game going in our favour, because they were absolutely dominated in that quarter. From a Kangaroos perspective, I'm sure, you know, the coaching staff from the Kangaroos will just be encouraging that North Melbourne team, because you saw as they started to get back into that game, their confidence grow and the belief that they can see themselves the chance of winning this game of footy.
Just some quick stats here, guys, for the Hawks. The leading ball getter is Tom Mitchell with 20, Shields with 20, Scrimshaw 19, as has Blake Hardwick, 17 apiece to Cousins and Wingard. For the Roos, look at the young stars. Simpkin with 10 in that quarter, 27 for the game. Cunnington, the veteran, with 26. Davies Uniacke, what a quarter from him with 22. And Aaron Hall with 18. And the overalls, now the Hawks still with more disposals, 283 to 258. But the Kangaroos, they're right back in the thick of things here. 1 point, the deficit. Ball in hand of the umpires. And Chris Rowbottom to get things started here in what should be a tremendous last quarter here at York Park.
Last quarter action from Launceston. Hawthorn lead North Melbourne by a point. McAvoy won it down. Mitchell at ground level. His kick was smothered by Thomas. Simpkin emerges with a footy. He's had it on a string this afternoon. The kick to half forward was a good one, but Jaff coming out from half back affected the Taylor mark and spoiled it and gathered his own footy. Gave to Warple, who got it forward for Hawthorn. Bruce was clean. Gave it to O'Meara. Inside 50 go the Hawks, 1-on-1. The fist was good, though, coming back from Mackay. It's gathered by Hall, who gave to Thomas. He's got Bruce for coming. In fact, it was Cousins. Stripped of the footy, turns it over. Ball in the hand of Morrison, who goes wide to Bruce. And he missed the kick, did Morrison. He had Bruce in some space at left half forward for the Hawks, and out of bounds it goes for a boundary throw in 25 metres around from the left hand behind post.
So McAvoy and Goldstein. McAvoy in front, but Goldstein's good enough to neutralise the contest. Down low there was Phillips, and he's taken a good tackle then from Walker. The little kick came out. Larky's come up and taken a very strong mark in front of Hardigan. He's had a tough day. Hardigan's been very good. That kick is absolutely horrid. It's gone the middle of the ground, but fortunately, it's bounced into the hands of Aaron Hall. Gave it off to Simpkin. Now he's got a one out forward. Zurha found some space and took the mark. The Kangaroos have got away with one, I reckon. The end result, however, is Zurha with his shot on number 3 for the day.
You reckon he's got away with one, Flash? Geez, he's very lucky there. But what I really do like, I know he's had a tough day against Hardigan, playing forward, Nick Larkey, but gee, that was a strong grab. Really physical, really strong hands, but just turned around and, yeah, lucky to get away with it. But this would be a great start for the Kangas coming into this last quarter.
To hit the front for the Roos. And they've done it. They lead now by 5 points, 10-7, 67 to Hawthorn, 9-8, 62. Zurha with 3. And the Kangaroos in front for the first time of the day, or did they kick the first behind from memory? Second time of the day. What a comeback.
A little bit of line in the sand here now for the Hawks. They really need to respond here, because it looks like the Kangas are just gaining momentum. As I said before, they're gaining confidence and they're gaining belief on that they're a chance of winning this game of footy.
Just keep in mind, Chris Roden, of course, 17 losing matches in a row for the Kangas.
So what a win it would be. Remember, they were 32 points down, yet to win a game this year. Their winless streak stretches 17 games back to round 9, 2020. And they're in front here against Hawthorn in Launceston, and they'll go again here, the Roos. Cunnington to Taran Thomas, the local, inside 50, he goes a 2-on-1. Frost gets back and takes the mark for the Hawks. He plays on. Kicks toward Wingard on the wing, who's got to mark strongly in front of his opponent. He does so. He's just drifted out of the game, did Chad Wingard, after having a scintillating first half. Left foot ball towards left half forward now in the Kaczynski direction, down to Cunnington. He couldn't trap the footy. He eventually ended up with it. Right foot ball towards half forward. And coming up again was Larkey. So he's lifted too as the young key forward. He's got it 80 metres out from goal, just in front of a wing, in front of Hartigan. Just assesses things. He wanted to perhaps go long, but he elected for the short ball to Lockie Young, who's at right half forward.
Yeah, Hawks have just clogged the gaps here pretty well. Young now, he'll play on. He'll kick to about 35 from goal. McAvoy again out in front. But behind all that in the action, a free kick has gone here to Larkey. Hartigan is furious with the umpire. But Larkey's taken a couple of good marks the last 5 minutes. Now with a shot on goal. He's kicked the one goal, but as you said, Matt, he hasn't had a lot of influence on the game until now. 40 metres out. He'll kick it on a 45-degree angle towards the city end. He just stabs at it, and he actually hasn't even made the distance from 40 metres out. The mark is taken by Michael Hartley, who'll play on and relieve for the Hawks.
Hartley all alone on the goal line. Took the mark, kicked beyond defensive 50. McAvoy spooked one he should have taken. Gave it up, though, to O'Meara, who got it to Phillips. Had Dumont for company. Just broke the tackle. Got a scrappy ball about 15 metres. Warple collects it off the turf. Back to Phillips now by hand. At right half back, a high up and under towards the wing. Walker led his man in Lewis to the footy. Cunnington ended up with it. Over to Simpkin, who got it to Hall. Right foot ball off centre wing now. Inside 50 go North Melbourne. Larkey was there. Zurha was blocked. And Zurha will get a free kick and the chance to kick number 4.
Let's go back to that Nick Larkey shot on goal and free kick. The exact same reason was this free kick is Hawthorn trying to soak up their opponent to try and get that third up mark, intercept, and both times giving away free kicks and shots on goal.
So this remarkably to stretch the margin to 11. Zurha from 40 metres out, slide angle, sets sail, points the finger and kicks his 4th. North Melbourne can taste it. The Roos go to 11-7-73. Hawthorn 9-8-62. They're up by 11 points. 6 minutes gone, 4th term at York Park for Grandstand AFL.
This is where we need to see Hawthorn's leaders, put their hand up and get themselves back into this game, because this is quickly just getting away from them here.
And I think you're speaking about the likes of Mitchell and O'Meara and Wingard, who look to have all floated out of this game a little bit, almost since halfway through that second quarter. And remarkably, the Kangaroos have found themselves at 11 points in front. Back in the middle. Campbell this time. He's done a pretty good job when he's needed to against McAvoy. McAvoy won this one down, but only straight to Simpkin, whose left foot kick should favour Impey, but Campbell got back there just to force the contest. Hardwick at the full gather, but was taken down immediately. Marnie, little handball to Menadue, and the kick's good to Larkey, but something's happened back off the play. And I think the free kick's going to come back to Hardwick, who last I saw was on the ground. I don't have an explanation. What I do know is the Hawks have got the footy, and they've chipped now to Mitchell, who'll relieve from defensive side of centre wing.
Left foot ball towards half forward. McAvoy in good spot. Campbell over the top, though. Took the juggler. At left half back for the Roos.
Had some good moments, Matty, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's got himself into the game slowly.
North Melbourne by 11 points, searching for their first of the year. Thomas at the back, got hands to it, couldn't drag it in.
I was talking to people during the week and I said Taron Thomas is going to take Mark of the Year one day, and they couldn't see it. He's got that ability in him. That was another example.
Serious jets in his boots.
He does indeed.
Up it goes, Simpkin at the fall, another disposal. Impey gets the footy, he's swung in the tackle, breaks it, breaks another and provides some dash to Impey. In fact, he takes a bounce. Handball now over the top to Wingard, who's floated out of this game. Left foot ball inside 50. He slipped as he kicked it, but he hits a target in Cousins.
Gee, hopefully that's the spark that they need, the Hawks. A great individual effort from Jarman Impey that has really produced that shot on goal for the Hawks.
So Impey gave to Wingard, who gave to Cousins. And he'll kick from 35 metres out, slight angle, has one for the afternoon. Most important kick of the day for the Hawks to slice the margin back. James Cousins leans back on the kick and puts it through. The Hawks aren't done with yet in Launceston. They go to 10-8-68. North Melbourne 11-7-73. And gee, we got a finish coming up, lads, for Grandstand AFL. 9 minutes gone, fourth and final term.
Full time at the SCG and the Swans 10-12-72. They get their sixth win of the year, defeating Collingwood 5-12-42. So that victory taking the Swans back into the top four. Might be all but momentarily. We've got the good one here. 5 points again now. Kangaroos in control. Cunnington, Powell and Simpkin in the middle. O'Meara, Shields and Jarman Impey, who was the architect in that last goal, in with the big combatants in McAvoy and Goldstein. McAvoy won it down. Powell, he took O'Meara and took him down. He's just good enough to release the handball to Impey, but dispossessed immediately. Cunnington grabbed it, but he was tackled. May have thrown it, may have been holding the ball, either. And Impey did well. Gave off the handball now to Hardwick. Hardwick will bomb it long to about 40 out from goal. One-on-one contest more, but at the fall there, Hall. Steady head needed, good kick necessary, and he finds one and hits Curtis Taylor at right half back.
It was a beautiful kick from Hall, who's been amongst North Melbourne's best this afternoon. Curtis Taylor with the footy. Right half back, kick towards centre wing. Giath best placed and takes it uncontested in the end on centre wing, but there's been a free kick off the ball. It was Larkey who was held off it by Hartigan.
Third free kick for the quarter, doing exactly that, trying to soak up the forward, trying to get that intercept possession.
Larkey kicks towards half forward for North Melbourne. Pat will fly. Frost at the back. It was knocked into the arms of Hartley, who gave it to Mitchell, who now gives it to Hardwick. Over the top handball now to McAvoy. He missed Morrison with the releasing handball on hands and knees. Working hard now, the Hawks up from Hardwick to Mitchell, who flares it out to Warple. Kick is a good one up the line to Lewis. So Mitch Lewis marks back of a win out of the side for the Hawks.
Lewis had a quiet game. Still a long, long way from home. Floating kick back into the corridor, but O'Meara's taken a decent mark. Now Impey's gone forward. It will be the target, but floating across, taking a very simple mark, was Mackay, who flares it wide to Atley. There was a real breakdown from the Hawks going forward. Now Menadue to Campbell, who takes a strong mark again. This time in front of the former Bomber in Hartley. He's at right half back, looking to assess his options. The one will be Hartigan and Larkey down here. Well, Larkey went up one hand, but Hartigan this time was strong, gathered the footy, gave it to Frosty, turned to Hardwick, goes the back door to Morrison. Chipping ball needs to be good, it is good, and O'Meara at left half back takes the mark, albeit under pressure from Walker.
So O'Meara, left back corner of the centre square, kicks beyond the interchange benches, and Phillips takes a good mark in the one paw at right half forward. Left foot ball inside 50. It goes big fly at the back from Lewis. He couldn't quite reel it in. Handball came out to Cousins. Over the top he went into the arms of Simpkin, who just walked it over the line where the 50-metre line meets the boundary. We'll have a throw in. 50 metres around from Hawthorn's goal. 10-8-68. The Hawks, North Melbourne 11-7-73.
Cunnington with the right hand this time. Won it down. There was no clean footy coming through there at all. Simpkin and O'Brien and Shields met each other. They locked it in like three bears. And we'll do it again. Goldstein won it down. O'Meara went through, couldn't gather it. Shields did eventually. balked out of some tackle, gave off a handball. And the recipient, who was more, was taken high. Now he's played on quickly, gives it to Scrimshaw, loads up from 55, right to the line. The umpire sets the goal. Instinctive play from Moore. Scrimshaw was lurking, and it was a wonderful rest. And the Hawks back in front. 11-8-74. They lead North Melbourne 11-7-73. 14 minutes gone last quarter.
We spoke about the fact that we needed a few Hawthorn leaders to put their hands up, and that's come, and they're competing really well. They're starting to get their hands on the footy a little bit more now.
Who did that remind you of, Flush? The number 14 from 55 on the left boot. Grant Birchall written all over that ball. Beautiful kick, wasn't it? Back in the middle we go. 14 minutes gone, fourth term, North Melbourne now find themselves down by a point, searching for their first win in 18 games. Up it goes, O'Brien into the middle for the Hawks, down to Powell, who just gave the deft touch to Goldstein going past. He pumps North Melbourne long and strong inside 50. Free kick going the way of the Roos. The umpire enjoyed the theatre then, didn't he? Well, he just held his breath. He teased the Hawthorn supporters. He signalled the free kick. There was some confusion. It'll end up with Garner. He'll have a set shot for goal, 20 metres out, no real angle to speak of, for his second. Make that his third of the afternoon. Makes no mistake, puts it through. Roos back in front. Drama at York Park. North Melbourne 12-7-79. Hawthorn 11-8-74. 15 and a half gone for Grandstand AFL Matthew Capuano.
That's the thing you worry about at centre bounces when you've got a Todd Goldstein versus a Tim O'Brien in the centre square, and you see Todd Goldstein clear the ball out and pump the ball inside 50. And yes, it was from a free kick, but that free kick is a result of the pressure of the quick ball coming inside 50.
I think at my count, that's 5 in the forward half the Kangaroos have got this quarter, and I think you're right, Matty, they've earned every one of them. Goldstein's had a tremendous game, the dominant ruckman on the ground. He's had good support from Campbell today against McAvoy, and as you mentioned, when O'Brien has to go in there as he is now, he's certainly in his wrong weight division, that's for sure. Let's see what he can do here. Won it again, down to Davies Uniacke on this occasion. Gave off a hand to Powell. Spearing ball to Taylor. Couldn't take the mark. Brought the four ends up here with Phillips. Gave off a handball to Mitchell. In turn now the run of Wingard. He was trying to spot up Lewis on the lead. Just bounced in front of him. Walker's there to corral him. Bruce down low. Got the football, but Walker just threw him to the ground, and he's got hold of the ball. Gee, the big man was ferocious and wins the free kick for North Melbourne. Bruce took on the tackler, lost his footing and was pinned. Walker kicks towards centre wing now for North Melbourne, floating across O'Brien for the Hawks. Takes a strong mark. So O'Brien has been deployed into defence, as we saw against the Crows a couple of weeks ago. He'll send Hawthorn inside 50 now. Pat will form, floating across. Mackay couldn't take the mark. It fell to Bruce, who had Wingard on the outside. He had to go and find the footy. He went off the deck, did Wingard, all the way to the goal mouth. North Melbourne hands. Zeeble takes on the tackler in. Hanrahan gave to Menadue, lost his footing, not out of trouble yet. The Roos Turner now gave it to Walker. Slaps it on the boot beyond defensive 50. They'll get away with it. Garner takes the mark at right half back. Garner's kicks a sloppy one, but it will favour Zurha on the bounce. He couldn't gather it clean. He wore like a glove from Harbour. Just tapped in the direction of Frost, but as he went to kick, he slipped at the crucial stage. Tapped it out in front of Hartley, but he was taken into the tackle immediately. You wouldn't imagine he had enough time to get rid of the umpire. Said he did. He was the only one there. It didn't favour him. Lazaro got on top of him. He's got the free kick now. He's got Goldstein short. Gives it to Goldstein, the big man, from 55, right to the goal line. Oh, big fly from Zurha over the back ball. Still we won a few metres out from goal. Taylor went with a socker off the left boots. Hawks hold up. They trail by 5 points, and we're right smack bang in the goal square. North Melbourne attacking to the city end.
5 metres out from North Melbourne's goal. Up it goes. Cunnington at the fall. Couldn't gather it cleanly. He goes again, does Cunnington. He rides the Hardwick tackle. Going down low was Larkey. We'll have a stoppage. Might have just got one over the shoulder. In fact, it was Zurha emerging from the bottom of the pack. Umpire said no. Up it goes again. Larkey does the ruck work. At ground level, fighting desperately. Contested footy. Handball came out to Hardwick, who just scrubs one, trying to clear defensive 50. It'll end up in the arms of Taran Thomas. And Taran Thomas makes no mistake from 45. The Launceston lad increases the North Melbourne lead. And get excited, Roos fans. It's 11 points the margin. 13-7-85. Hawthorn 11, 8-74. And who better to increase the lead than Taran Thomas, a man who's made this ground his own on many occasions in the past as a junior.
You know, a pressured quick kick from Hawthorn, trying to clear the ball out of their defensive 50. And they did get a look at it, but just weren't clean. And then the ball just bounces for Taran Thomas. And say no more.
He has got tremendous foot skills, and you just felt when he turned the right side there that he was a chance. And that's a young man who's really developing over the last month and getting some big roles here for the Kangaroos. He's gone forward now, interestingly enough, with the matchup on CJ Giath. But we're back in the middle. McAvoy and Goldstein. McAvoy won it down with the right hand. Warple couldn't gather it, just whacked it forward in front of O'Meara, who was taken in a tackle, but good enough just to fling off a handball, which landed with Moore, who was immediately dispossessed. Davies Uniacke had his kick smothered, still at centre wing. Cunnington went down low, as did Big Goldstein, who got off a handball to Cunnington. Simpkin went through. They can't get it cleanly. They nearly have now Hall in the middle of the ground. We'll have to come back. He got off a handball to Taylor, but right back at half-back, a free kick's come back for the Roos. It's going to be taken by Simpkin.
Simpkin held without it by Shields. Left half back is Simpkin. Towards half forward. Scrimshaw got across, couldn't take the mark. Hartigan mopped up, kicked up the line now in the O'Brien direction. Over his head, Kazitsky went to ground, couldn't gather the footy. Up to Mackay, who gave it to Simpkin. Can we get a stat count on Jai Simpkin, please? He has had a ton of the footy this afternoon. The relieving kick to Marnie for North Melbourne, who has it on the outer side to right half forward for the Roos. Off hands was Taylor, who gathered the footy at ground level. He's tackled it, spills out to more of the Hawks. Underground went Jaff. He couldn't find more. He went and got his own footy. Eventually just threw it on the boots of no one in particular, and getting back was Zeeble, who takes the mark on centre wing outer side.
He goes back to the veteran athlete. 35 for Jai Simpkins, the answer you were looking for earlier. What a game he's had. Chipping ball down to Hall, who's happy to go back to Atley, who tucks down the arm and says, I'll go. Has a bounce through the corridor. Had nowhere to go, though, so he's come backwards to Hall at centre half back. Taking his time to get around, has a bounce, weaves around a couple. Wingard, the last opponent, gave off a handball to Davies Uniacke. Charlie Lazaro taking immediately to tackle. Hawks fans will want a free kick, but Lazaro didn't have an opportunity. Right here in front of us on the broadcast wing, centre wing. 11 points the margin, 22 minutes gone. Kangaroos in control.
Time slowly becoming a factor now for the Hawks, who need 2 goals to wrestle back the lead. Out it comes to the congestion. Cousins ended up with Cunnington of North Melbourne. Kane Turner, well, he just elected to concede 15 metres back to Mackay, who had to go and look for it. Eventually it went out of bounds. A nervous kick from Kane Turner of North Melbourne. Will have a boundary throw in 70 metres around from Hawthorn's goal. Broadcast side, in it comes. McAvoy and Goldstein. Goldstein won it down. Cunnington has been massive. Fend off to Simpkin, number 36 for him. Into the middle of the ground go the Roos. Hartigan worked his man in Campbell underneath it. Don't think the umpire paid the mark. He got the handball to Giath, who was tackled. Out now to Frost, who's got Taran Thomas to contend with. Good enough to get it to Mitchell. He went by hands of Phillips. They can't get any open space here, the Hawks. Into Giath, who was just Well, he almost got into the back of his opponent. Umpire said no. Players converge. We'll have a stoppage on centre wing broadcast side. 23 and a half gone. North Melbourne lead Hawthorn 13-7-85 to 11-8-74. Centre wing. Hawks need one. They need one now. There's going to be a free kick in the ruck here. McAvoy's, in fact, it's Hardigan who has given away the free kick against Campbell. Not sure why Hardigan wasn't paid the mark there earlier with the two juggler mark. We've moved on from that. They kick forward and McAvoy, though, gets in the hole and takes a strong mark. Now, he's going to look corridor. What's he got forward? Impey's trying to make a play. Eventually he saw there was nothing there, so he gave it a short handball to O'Meara. His handball ended up, though, with Aaron Hall. He turned it over. In turn to Marnie. Marnie's kicked forward. Now Thomas! One bite, couldn't take it on the second. Ball the full. Cunningham went down low, but it's all Hawks at the fall here. Cousins at centre wing. Gave it off to Shields, who slipped over at the crucial stage. In turn to Impey. He goes backwards, the Hawks here to Morrison. Can he find a target forward? No, can't. And in many ways, it's been the story of the day. Foot skills haven't been great, especially in this second half for the Hawks. And 24 minutes gone, they trail by 11 points. Ball in Kanga's hand. In it comes via Zeeble. Kicks beyond the wing, and Cunnington takes a strong mark. He's been absolutely excellent this afternoon. Towards left half forward, here's Taran Thomas, the young star with the big moment a little earlier. Left half forward now, the Roos, too far out to score. He'll just pump it deep inside 50. Looking for Zerha, who went early. Scrimshaw at the back, couldn't take it. Got it off to Frost, who just kicks to a nest of Roos, unable to take the mark. Hawthorn will emerge with it. Handball over the top from Cousins to Impey. You know who'll take on Aaron Hall. Foot race on the outer side. Two bounces does Impey take to Cousins. Back to Impey. Inside forward 50 O'Brien direction. Couldn't get front spot. Bounces out to Simpkin, number 37 for him. Over the top now to Atley. Now he's got some time and space on the outer side. Two bounces for Sean Atley. Gives it by hand to Taylor. Receives back to Atley. Inside 50 go the Roos. Hardigan couldn't take the mark. Ground level with Scrimshaw. Ended up with Zerha. He was tackled. Thomas around the body. Shot on goal all the way to the line. Minus score. Two straight kicks the margin. North Melbourne by 12. 13-8-86, lead Hawthorn 11-8-74, 26 minutes gone. Desperation stakes now the Hawks. Hardwick plays on quickly, just kicks a thumping ball in the middle of the ground. Lewis went up, couldn't take the mark. Ball to be won at the full. O'Brien gathered cleanly, gave it off to Gia, tucked it under the arm, run his full measure. Little handball to Cousins, back to Gia, runs to 55. He needs a target up forward now. He's got Kaczynski. 1-on-1, couldn't take the mark. Butted up on the half volley. Gave it off to O'Meara. Little one to Morrison. In turn to Moore, and they kick a goal. The Hawks have got one back, and they bring the margin back to 6 points. 12-8-80. They trail North Melbourne 13-8-86. We've travelled 27 minutes. The draw's on. 6 points the margin, 27 gone. And what a finish we have coming up in the final stanza of this game. It might be 17th taking on 18th in Launceston, but it doesn't mean any less to the supporters of these two proud football clubs. Hawthorn 12-8-80, North Melbourne 13-8-86. They lead by a goal. They haven't won all year. Back in the middle, Mitchell leads the chase. Simpkin scrubs one forward for North Melbourne. Ground level ball. Garner comes on through. Toe pokes it towards the boundary line. It goes over in the end. How will the umpire see it? It'll be thrown in 60 metres around from the North Melbourne goal on the outer side. We're at left half forward. North Melbourne lead by a goal. haven't tasted success for the past 17 games of football. Off hands, off the stoppage was Cunnington. He's been a beast this afternoon. Out to O'Meara, but he ran out of tarmac and out of bounds it goes. Still 60 metres around from North Melbourne's goal on the outer side.
So not long to go. Hawks still with a small window. They trail by 6 points. Campbell went up, couldn't win it down over the back. It ended up with Impey. Had the run of Mitchell, gave off the handball. Left foot kick up forwards, a good one. They need a mark from Kaczynski over the back, couldn't take it. Cunnington was steady. Clean as the whistle, gave it to Hall, who kicks out wide to Zerha. Hardigan over the top of the contest. Larkey at the fore with the gather. Gave it off to Jamont. Kick forward. Now this is a dangerous one-on-one for the Roos. Taran Thomas is met with Hardwick, who was equal to the challenge. They both saw it over the boundary line, but from a Roos perspective, we're 50 metres around from the Roos goal, right half forward. They lead by a solitary kick. 29 and a half gone. In it comes Campbell with the palm straight to Cunnington. Dumont sends a low ball inside 50. It'll beat all comers to the boundary, and we'll have another boundary throw in deep in attack for North Melbourne. 5 metres around from the right hand behind post. A goal would seal it, you feel. In it comes. Who can be the hero? Offhand, Scrimshaw. Cunnington at the cold face. Off to Zerha. Round the body. Touched on the line. A crucial behind, though, for North Melbourne, who go up by 7. They play on it immediately, and Hardwick tries to get onto a barrel, and it's off the side of the boot in the Phillips direction. Can't take the mark. Ball to be won here. Warple with an opportunity for the Hawks. Kangaroos in numbers. Hall down low. Warple had another crack at it. Hall jumped on top of him. But that point may be all they need. Just remember, the Kangaroos are a 17-game losing streak going into last year. The Hawks, they win it down. The back of the stoppage, though, it's all North Melbourne. Hall gave it off Jamont. One-on-one with Thomas, but over the back is Hardwick, who takes the mark. He want to play on quickly, doesn't. Smothered. It'll end up here with Cunnington. Fitting really, his left foot kick forward. Garner, who's been dangerous, kicked for 3 goals. Can't gather, but it doesn't matter. And the Roos are jubilant. Trailing by 32 points, they have stormed home with a 7-point win. North Melbourne 13-9-87 have defeated Hawthorn 12-8-80. North Melbourne is the team that plays to win for you and me. What a storming comeback from the Kangaroos. 32 points in arrears and have stormed home for a tremendous victory. The goal scorers, Zerha with 4, Garner with 3, Thomas, Davies, Uniac, Larkey and Marnie and Taylor with singles. Goldstein also kicking the 1. And for the Hawks, 2 to Cousins, 2 to Bruce, Wingard and Kaczynski, and singles to Moore, Lewis, Scrimshaw and Shields. The Kangaroos, 13 goals, 9-87, have defeated the Hawks 12-8-80. Matthew Capuano for Grandstand AFL.
Well, obviously really pleasing for the Kangaroos to break their duck for the year down here in Launceston. And look, a promising performance. And we spoke pre-game about the Kangaroos being able to stay in games a little bit longer and a little bit longer. And we saw today, after a really slow start, and wondering that maybe they were squandering some opportunity and may miss out on the opportunity to win the game. Look, they've hung on, but gee, Hawthorn in that last 5 minutes of the game, they had some genuine opportunity to win the contest, and the Kangas were just able to hang on. So, look, great to see the Kangas win their first game of the year, but you know, I'm sure the Hawks will look back on that one as maybe a lost opportunity.
It's North Melbourne's first win since round 9, 2020. 17 losses in a row, and the duck officially broken here in Launceston against the Hawks, who had previously lost 14 of their past 17. Make that 15 of 18 now, and the screws are sure to turn on this once great team, who are now officially at a low ebb.
I think, Matty, too, you only have to look at the goal scorers, youthful exuberance from North Melbourne, to wonder if that's the direction with Zerha and Thomas and Davies-Uniacke. Larky's last quarter, such a big influence. And Chris mentioned about that with Hawthorn. Is that how you see it with the Hawks this week in terms of, where are they at? They're going to cop it this week, aren't they?
Oh, look,
it's a fickle game, isn't it?
It is a fickle game, and look, yes, the screws might be turned on them, but that's just the AFL environment now. There's certain expectations, and Hawthorn's expectations, as we've spoken about, are lofty expectations coming off the period of success that they've had. So we could see that, but look, I'd like to see the positivity from the North Melbourne Football Club as we look down there now, and look, it's you can just see that it has been a long period of not being able to win a game, and probably more than anything else, the relief to finally get on the board and get a win.
Can I just identify one player here, Matty, and we talked about him during the coverage a lot. Jai Simpkins had 38 disposals, 22 kicks, 16 handballs. He's had 9 tackles, 2 marks, 23 contested possessions. It says a lot about a young man who's taken a while, I guess, to find his feet at AFL level. But, gee, you saw a glimpse of the future today with not only the guy we mentioned in Thomas as well, and Davies-Uniacke. What a second half from him. Goodness me.
You're right, mate. And look, I'm just trying to frame up some votes for this game at the moment, and obviously, when you look at Ben.
Now, I haven't tried to sway you there.
Yeah,
by the way,
you actually
I'm going to make it very hard.
You list those statistics, and that's a monster of a game. And I don't know what Ben Cunnington's statistics were today, but I would say that they would be very similar.
37, and he's had 27 contested possessions. Goodness me.
Yeah, so two massive contested games in the midfield. In the midfield for North Melbourne, and look, you did touch on, particularly when the game, and the pressure was on in the game. Some of those young North Melbourne players that did come through and really show something. You talk about Taron Thomas and LDU and Cam Zerha, who I think he kicks 4 goals, and obviously because they won the game, we're looking at it positively and saying that there are some real shining lights from a North Melbourne perspective.
Let's not underestimate what this win means for this group, because they're making their way from the ground now. You can hear the supporters in full voice. There's lots of emotion, there's hugging, there's smiles, there's laughing, there's high fives. After 17 weeks of misery, Matty Capuano, this win will mean the absolute world to the North Melbourne Football Club. It might just be 7 points over the lowly Hawks in Lonnie, but don't underestimate what this will do for a group that Ben Cunnington has been around for how many seasons now. He put this team on his back this afternoon with 37 disposals. Todd Goldstein with 28 hitouts and 19 of his own, plus a goal. Jai Simpkin, representative of the future, 38 disposals, was the best player on the ground for mine. And then Davies-Uniacke with 24 and a goal, and his working close was absolutely phenomenal. So they make their way into the rooms. They're hoping to bring you the song, which they'll be singing very loudly very proudly very soon.
I'm hoping to hear it, because I think it'll be vigorous at the very least.
And you go back, to what you were saying about, how much this means to the North Melbourne Football Club, and you cannot underestimate, when you talk about the last time they won a game of football, and and we're in this business to win games of football. And you know, you just see the emotion, you know, in them, you know, and getting the 4 points, you know, these kind of things hopefully start to build some culture at this football club.
I'm thinking we might have the song here, Matty, in a few seconds if we stand by. We've got no eyes on the ground down there today, which makes it a little bit more difficult.
Well, we can probably be pretty confident in painting a picture of the vibe in the North Melbourne rooms, and equally the vibe inside the Hawthorn rooms, who moped off the ground.
It's a long time, 17 matches. It feels like a full season.
It's almost a full season.
Isn't it?
17 weeks without a win, 17 consecutive games, and you throw in COVID-19 and hubs and a pre-season and a couple of whippings in the practice games as well. And, gee, it's such a long time between drinks to taste success. And they were 32 points down today, North Melbourne.
Amazing. This is what is good about footy, Matty. Just from a side that they just open the gates and the kids have flooded onto York Park like the old days, you know, just having a toe poke or standing down there in the corner and trying to kick a banana or what have you. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
It's not done. I don't think it's done enough these days. It's good to see.
We understand we'll have a chat with Jai Simpkin, which has been picked up very kindly for us by one of the networks. But we've also got the song, so let's have a listen to the North Melbourne song on this famous day for the club. There it is.
Sensational.
Yeah, there it is in full voice, the Roos. They won by 7 points this afternoon. Their first win of the season over the Hawks here in Launceston. Been a pleasure to bring it to you for Grandstand AFL. You're off to the Gold Coast.